All right, shalom, everybody. Yeah, shalom, everybody. How you doing? Welcome for being welcome. Trying to get set up here. Finally gonna be able to have Facebook back on with us. Excited about that. Can get ready to start in a second. And Yadai Shalom to those who are on today. Shalom to everybody. Sorry, trying to get this last one set up. Thanks for giving us a second to finish coming on here. Hold on. Man, a lot just to get this on. But we shall finish up and then we can get started. So here's let me see. Alrighty, I think we're ready to go ahead and start. It'll be on all these platforms simultaneously. Alrighty, so let's see. It's gonna be a little dark for those who are seeing this. We don't have as much light as we would like, but you guys should at least be able to see what's going on enough. So hello, shalom to everybody. Welcome on all the platforms. And see you. Let's see, Dawn, Rhonda, Brother Clem, Sister Deborah. Hopefully you guys can hear me all right on TikTok. See Big Brother Thomas, Tamika, Sharice, Shima, Needed Freedom. It's Blue Red, Sister Beverly, Tweety, thanks for being part of the community. Cardinal, thanks for being part of the community. Hello, Tarlin, how you doing? And everybody else coming on. You hear loud and clear? Okay, cool. Sister Tracy, how you doing? Excellent. So we'll go ahead and get this started. Just trying to make sure that since we haven't been on Facebook in a little while, I'm going to make sure that we send a little extra stuff out to those of us who usually come on there, who might be like, "Up, he hasn't been on a couple of days, so he's probably not going to be on today." Make sure that they know that we're back on. And Sister Beverly was already waiting for us. All righty. Let's see. Okay, I think we're on. No, one more person. Okay, thank you all again for being on with this. And we're going to get started. Today, we're going to end the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart, be acceptable in Hava's sight. He is our strength and our redeemer. And it's in his name, which is his authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, protect this message. Amen. Amen. Hello, everybody. Thank you. Sorry, you said Elohim gave you a word for someone in this line. Quit smoking today and avoid cancer. Peace be upon you. All right. Thank you. Minister Nice, how you doing? Ransom, how you doing? And so once again, we give all praise and honor to the Most High. We're thankful and grateful to each and every one of you being on. Shalom, Minister Select Sonia. And as always, I'm Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And so thank you for being on with us today and learning and growing and contributing different places. Hello. Oh, okay. Brother Clem, same one from MB. All right. Thank you for being on with us. So we give all praise once again to the Most High. We give all praise to him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, and her website at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, but the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. I'm at a weird angle here, trying to get adjusted in this little corner over here as we're on the road. You can check her out once again on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, but the letter N. Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And the tincture of the month, even though she has many tinctures for healing for the community, however, the tincture of the month is still I Am Renewed. Also, too, reminder to the sisters, coming up this Saturday, this Shabbat, you guys will be having your women's meeting at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern, New York time. So be ready for that. And otherwise, Marshawn, Malcolm, Betty, Isabella, and Solomon, Daddy loves you very much. To Lottie, Dottie, and everybody, whether you be on staff, a member of SOC, a member of the Israelite community, a member of the African diaspora, a Moor, a human being, a brother, a sister, somebody who agrees with us, somebody who disagrees with us. We're thankful and grateful to have you on here. If it is your first time on here, we do have moderators on these platforms, and the moderators are here to make sure that this is a safe space. Therefore, if you decide that you're going to do something that I'm not even really worried about myself, but if you're going to do something that bullies other people or frustrates other people and has people to be forced to have to, deal with you being, not dealing in a human nature or, correct human nature towards other human beings, you will have to be removed or at least muted. So just to let you know, but prayerfully, we'll have everybody have proper discourse as human beings and treat each other with respect, even if we don't have to agree with every single thing that's on here. All right. So thank you for being on. I think Sister also popped up. Hello, Deja. How you doing? Yeah, I need to reach out to you. I was trying to sneak in and reaching out to you yesterday, Deja, but we'll try to see. I don't know about today because today's day off and family day, but I'm gonna try and reach out to you, especially for YLP 83 stuff, the Yazland project. So forgive me for not getting in touch with you, especially these last weeks, which have been me kind of catching up from being off and resting. But we haven't forgotten. Hello, peace. Is it dose or dose? Not sure. Yeah, Yahshua is the way, the truth, and the life. And we are followers of the way. So thank you very much. And shalom, shalom, all praise to the Most High. Amen. Tedach. Probably say ach, right? Instead of ache or ache. Hello, Jay. How you doing? Alrighty. So today's topic, and tomorrow we'll be getting into a very familiar topic. But today's topic is going to be on specifically. Let me see something likewise. Okay, works because I can't. I know on Facebook you still can't really see me, but that works a lot better as far as. I feel like I can see myself, so I feel like y'all can see me too. It works a little better for us. But today we're going to talk about animalistic behavior. We'll start talking about our Shabbat series that people have been asking us questions about, and we'll start on that tomorrow. But today we want to talk about animalistic behavior. Oh, okay, it's your wife's tablet. I'm on. And shalom to the wife as well. We want to talk about animalistic behavior. Thanks for being part of the community, Lewis. Animalistic behavior. And when we say animalistic behavior, I'm not talking about you having a spirit animal. When I say animalistic behavior, I'm not talking about that you will guard your children like a bear, guards her cubs. When I say animalistic behavior, what we're going to talk about today is the fact that people have taught not only our people, but everyone worldwide, that you come from an animal. And when you believe that you come from an animal, you've got a problem. Because if you believe that you come from an animal, right? If you believe that you come from an animal, you have a real problem because you then believe that it's okay to do what animals do, right? You then say it's all right to do what animals do. And you even make excuses for treating people like animals. You'll even make excuses that says, well, what can you expect? We're just animals. You'll start saying things about your relationship. Like, well, this primate over here, this is how they treat their wives. And these primates over here, they're almost exactly like us. We were watching something on YouTube early this rising and last night. I can't remember, my wife and I. And you have to always be able to translate when they're putting this stuff on there. But the whole thing, well, you know that this is the closest animal to you. This is, and since this is the closest animal to you, hey babe, my wife is on the honorable mind. You can check her out once again at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, but the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. Thanks for being on, babe. I love you very much. Um, but we were listening to some stuff, Shalom, Sister Helen, and it was saying the same thing. Up here, you you shouldn't, they're just like this. This is just how this primate does. Then all of a sudden they say, well, this is how we can prove homosexual behavior because that giraffes. And they just they try to come up with wild statistics. A lot of them from animals that are in captivity too, by the way, right? But they'll say stuff like animals in captivity are going to act like animals in their civilization. I say their civilization because the word wild or savage literally just means it doesn't fit into your version of civilization. So when an animal is what they would call civilized, they act different than when they're in captivity. That's something else that you should kind of keep in your mind, that you as a human being are being told stuff that's different because you're still in the land of your captivity. You can do with that what you will. That's not our focus today, but that's a lot of what's going on. Minister Nine says that's why you shouldn't call your child a kid. A lot of people don't know that, you're calling your child a kid because you deal with a society that's still into very Greco-romantic type stuff where the people who are Greek, they like goats, and they mess with little boys regularly, little girls as well, but they actually had the men had more of a taste for those little boys. And so, they mess with little boys, right? You call them a kid. It's a very interesting place to be. And then to not think about. But there's animalistic behavior because people are trying their best to be animals. Gertrude, you're gonna have to do better. See, that's animalistic behavior. You said my children. Breezy, I'm sorry. You said my children were crying. I missed the first part. Let's see, Ubuntu Ofori says, I know that Jesus never existed. It's a fact that Jesus is the plagiarized version of Horus. Well, thank you for being on. First of all, that's how you would say hello to somebody. Secondly, we don't believe that Jesus existed either. We know that Jesus is a nickname for who we're talking about. Thirdly, Heru or Horus, who you were calling them, and the story of Yashva are not the same story, right? Isis and Osiris, that was a whole thing of necrophilia. Yashva didn't get here because of necrophilia, right? Horus had disciples. And so you say he had 16 disciples, or 20 disciples technically, because he had 4 of them that were supposed to be spiritual disciples, 16 of them that were supposed to be physical. All right. So just because he had disciples doesn't mean that somebody else who has disciples, they're plagiarizing. Also, once again, though, his name is not Jesus. His name will be Yashvai. And Yashvai would have been somebody who would have been known about that name in and of itself as something that existed, even though that, there were other people named Yashvai, but we're talking about Yashvai Habashak. That's a different concept, culture, context, etc. Now, if anything, I would think that you would say, hey, it's not plagiarized, but maybe it was developed to where when he went to Kemet, right? But when you're dealing with Kemet Street, by the way, if you're dealing with Horus and stuff like that, Heru, Osiris, Isis, whatever we're going to call them, let us not forget that that was plagiarized. So what does that even mean? We got to keep the main thing at some point. But we appreciate it, though. Thank you for being on. And prayerfully, you can come on and actually have like conversation instead of it being like, I'm going to tell you the truth about what it is, blah, blah. But yeah, I know Horace. I am Kemet. I studied my people, and I recognize I know what they say. I know what's written on there. All right. So we're talking about animalistic behavior, though. That's the main subject matter. If we're going to keep the main thing, how they're trying to get you to be an animal, how they're trying to get you to come on and have cognitive dissonance, how they get you to come on and try and be against your own brethren so much that the first thing you're going to do is say, I'm going to tell you why you're wrong, rather than try to figure out what is right about what you say and how can we both live in a righteous manner together. Say hello, procreation for necrophilia, maybe from the recently dead male. Um, I don't exactly know. Are you talking about the court case that came up recently? Are you talking about what I was just saying, Jonathan? I'm sorry, I don't really know where it is, but long story short, we're talking about animal behavior, and if anything in that's animalistic behavior. Even though, actually, let me take that back. I don't know if an animal would do that, right? But what happens is they start using animalistic behavior, or what people will call science. And you always have to be careful about science. I believe in science, but you must understand that science is culture as well, and science is religion as well. Period. If somebody in somebody's culture, they say you got to get stuck with something in your arm, because if you get sick in somebody's culture, they believe that whatever's attacking your body, you have to attack. You have to attack it. So that's why you will stab yourself to heal yourself. Reality, like, think about that. You will stab your vein to heal yourself. It doesn't really make sense, but that's what a culture says. If you get sick, you got to attack whatever attacks you. If you get sick, right, and you've got something attacking your body, you've got to attack it with radiation. If your body dies, so be it, right? But as long as we attack what's attacking you, it's fine, right? Animalistic behavior, because animals attack what they attack. But here's the deal: is that they lie to you about animalistic behavior, because you won't find a lion that's sick that says, "Okay, I'm going to go ahead and find, my arm is my arm is feeling bad and infected, so I'm going to go and like start battering it against a rock." Animals don't behave like that. Thanks for following or I'm sorry, thanks for sharing loveness, right? Like animals don't do that, but they will tell you survival of the fittest. Charles Darwin talked about survival of the fittest, and even wrote in the book, as much as he wrote in the Origin of Species. Remember the name of Charles Darwin's book that everybody talks about, that was flying off the shelf, and that the right, if you will, the right people behind the scenes had to pay to make sure it got out there. Charles Darwin's book was called the Origin of Species, the Theory of Evolution. The origin, I'm sorry, no, I had it right. The Origin of Species, colon, the Theory of Evolution. And then it said what? The struggle of survival for favored races. Right? That's that's what was actually out there. That's what his book was called. That's what his book was called. His book was called what? The Origin of Species, the Theory of Evolution, not a fact, but a theory of evolution. And what was he trying to prove? The struggle for survival of favored races. And in that book, he made a point to say that survival of the fittest was actually when groups came together. Groups of animals would come together to live together to ensure that they lived. Nowadays, though, they'll tell you that survival of the fittest is you got to be on your own. They'll even lie to you about their own theories. They'll even lie to you about your own theories, right? If the theory is supposed to be what you say it is, then why would you change the theory or lie about the theory? Unless the theory, it was something that was never true in the first place. But see, theories are things that people put out there because theories can be changed over and over again, and they'll just keep, readjusting to whatever they want to be at the time. Grand Rising Loveness, how you doing? So we're out here dealing in these theories, and then one of these theories is that you are an animal. You come from an animal, therefore you must be an animal. And this is dangerous because it makes you, in your mind, it makes you no better than the wolf. It makes you, Lupercalia, Looper, all these things that are dealing with the wolf. There's diseases that start with lupus and stuff. There's a lot of things out there called lupus. Lupus is just dealing with the wolf, how the wolf attacks, because Romans believe that they are a people. You got to see how the science works. Romans believe that they are a people. You got to see how the culture works. Romans believe they are a people who come from a wolf. Either they believe that Romulus and Remus were born from a wolf, or they believe that Romulus and Remus were left without their parents and they were raised by wolves. And then one killed the other. Romulus, which is where you would get Rome from, killed Remus. And so now that's what they're left with. And so that's why they're so ravenous. That's why they're so wolf like. That's why they're trying to do everything they can as far as be to come at you if you are somebody who fancies yourself with a Greco-Roman mentality. By the way, I have to say this again before we get into the whole thing of that automatically makes it white people this and that. Remember that back then when they started, and for many years, and really through even Justinian and Theodora, if you look at pictures and stuff, a Roman, what we consider a Roman person now, or a Greco-Roman person, or a Greek, even a Macedonian, etc. The list goes on, an Athenian, Spartan, etc., we would have looked at through them through the social construct as being, or some people would even say black today, right? Not here to tell you that it's the color per se, but it is the system or the systemic thought, the systematic principles put in place that are causing you to think that animalistic behavior is all right, and causing your children to believe that animalistic behavior is all right. You said you think that she wolf could take human form. Well, I mean, if that's your belief system, but we don't believe that animals shapeshift. We don't believe in evolution. But, if that's your belief system, you can feel free to believe that, though. But just know that that's not our belief per se. So, but that's somebody else's. It's a very pagan, Eurocentric belief system, and you can see that, right? But I want you to see in general that like that's what's actually being supported. Like that's really what's being supported is a wolf like, and it basically says, look, if you attack us, we attack you. You said, are all these stories from the Caucasian people? Well, if you're trying to say that all Caucasian people fit into the social construct as white, I don't do that either, because we know that Caucasians coming from a specific place. And the only reason why a lot of white people now want to be known as, or for a little bit, they wanted to be known as Caucasian, is because there was a guy who was into eugenics who had a love-hate relationship with Caucasians. He hated them enough to enslave them, but he loved them enough to try and say he thought they were the most, well, I don't even know if he said they were the most beautiful people. He had a warped mentality. He said they had the most beautiful skeletal structure and skulls. And so because of that, eugenics basically eventually said, hey, well, white people must be the ones who have the most beautiful skulls, because that means they have the best body or whatever, or the best mind. So let's go ahead and say that Caucasians are white people, and that's where that came from, right? But I'm very careful to make sure that we have this correct, because there are Caucasian people who don't look what we would call by the social construct white. We know the word white, or the color white, doesn't even really exist, right? So I want to get past just the color, because that's why we mess up in stuff like the person today who was on. You said who was the guy? Um, I don't remember. Can you join the live, Brianna? You talking about what? Can you call in? Um, I guess depends on what you're talking about, but you can call in for a second, or I guess if that's what you're talking about. I don't know if you. Yeah, I guess you have enough followers to be able to ask a question real quick, but I got to focus in on this. But sure, if you'd like to, just for a second, for a quick second. Now that said, so you're saying we named each other's races? That's funny. Um, I'm saying that, well, first of all, I don't know if we is a great mindset as far as naming each other's races. Um, well, if it's just a vibe, I don't know how long it's gonna be on or whatever. We have to we have specific stuff that we got to get through for today or whatever. But if you got questions, you got something to add to it, you can feel free to be on for a tiny bit. And anybody who's on the podcast, by the way, you guys can call in at any time. If you're on Facebook, you can actually ask permission to come on and jump on in, and be in just for a little bit of time as well. If you're on TikTok, unfortunately, I don't think that you can actually come on unless you have a certain amount of followers. Even though whenever I say that, I feel like then there ends up being something that makes me look like I'm lying on that, but I haven't successfully been able to do it myself. So um, at least that's been my experience. But we're once again we're talking about animalistic behavior, right? And animalistic behavior is extremely crucial to listen to and to think about and to think on, because most of the stuff that happens in the system, they're trying to tell you that it's okay because it's an animal type response, right? Matter of fact, it's something that basically is there to tell you about evolution, right? To tell you that you evolved, right? To tell you that, right? Like even in your mindset, they say, oh, you evolved too. You evolved from. See your job, how you worked at your job. See how you evolved from this place to that place. And you have not evolved, right? Evolution does not exist. But you will say things like, I'm trying to evolve as this person. You're not even thinking, you're trying to say, I'm going from animal to animal, or so to speak, right? I'm going from one level of animalistic behavior to another. How you doing, family? Thanks for being on today, right? Like, and we don't comprehend the culture. Thank you, brother Anthony. Right? We don't comprehend the culture has changed, and we taking on somebody else's culture, and with it comes animalistic behavior. Why do you think that? See, they'll tell you stuff like, "Be careful about the Bible. The Bible causes more wars and this and that, or whatever, than in any other religion." Or they'll say about the Quran, or they'll say about this and that. Why does nobody talk about how many wars evolution has caused? Question: can you guys name? See, because they don't teach you this. Can you guys name stuff that was done in the name of evolution? All right, New York in the house. New York City, okay. Which borough are you from? Blue Engine says so we don't have animal traits like the levels of the brain. First of all, no, I don't believe that just because you have something that's similar to something else that you would say that it had to come from an animal. Secondly, I'm not here to tell you that you can't that animals and humans cannot do things that are necessarily similar. Like animals can give birth to children. That doesn't mean that they had to evolve to do that. By the way, there's 6 types of evolution. You know what I'm saying? So there's 6 types of evolution as well, right? People don't know the 6 types. So when we even speak on evolution, which one you talking about? You talking about micro? Because micro is one that they call evolution. It's not even really evolution. Micro evolution, the 6th one, is the one that just says, hey, a father and mother, if they come together and they have a child, the child will have similar traits than what the father and mother have, but it'll just be slightly different, but they'll still be the same species. That doesn't mean it's evolution, but they'll teach that as microevolution, but they don't tell you there's 6 evolutions. They don't tell you you're dealing with microevolution, and since they're not going to tell you that, you don't even recognize that that's kind of nonsense. Like that's not evolution. That just means that a mom and a dad had a child. A mom and a dad didn't have a child, and by even the definition of these people who are into evolution, that doesn't mean the child will evolve. The child basically can just be the byproduct of the mom and dad. Or what if the child goes through comes out and has degenerative things, or is missing a limb or something like that? Like that wouldn't be evolution. That would actually mean they devolved by your concept, right? But they teach that as evolution. No, I do not consider humans in any way, shape, or form. Once again, though, people don't even think about it. 6 types, because you got to talk about just more than the evolution. Oh yeah, Tuskegee talks about eugenics and stuff like that. But there's 6 types of evolution. I'll get back to that in a second. But let me reintroduce this question. How many of you can name to me a war that happened in the name of evolution? In other words, the person said, remember the word name just means authority. So the person authorized their mindset to go to war based off of the fact that they said that evolution was a key component. Does anybody know? Can anybody name any wars that might have happened in? Said black men fighting white men's wars. That was and is a ongoing evolution. It's natural behavior now. Well, no, that's we would say that that's Stockholm syndrome. right? I don't. That's Willie Lynch syndrome. I don't know if we would say that that's the evolution. If anything, if you kept saying that evolved and evolved and evolved and evolved, that's de-evolution. If it means that you're going to be killed. You said you can't name one. Okay, what about this? Well, the Holocaust, which came out of a war, but so that right, even though the Holocaust is one of many Holocausts, so a Holocaust, right? The Jewish Holocaust, even though it wasn't just the Jewish Holocaust, that's why the number keeps going up and up and up, because it wasn't just Jewish people that were killed; it was Black people, it was people who believed in the Bible, it was people who were prisoners of war. It was people who were anti Hitler, or anti the Nazi Party, et cetera, et cetera. Right. But when you talk about World War II, right out of that, you got two people. Right out of that, two people, straight up. We don't even think about it because all you learn is how bad the Bible is and how bad the Quran is and how bad this person is. And hey, anybody who's ever fought a war in any name of any deity or any deist or any Elohim or any God or any Netjer, any spirit, et cetera, they're bad. But they won't tell you that, yeah, in evolution, Hitler said that he was excited to be able to recognize that it wasn't about any deed. Matter of fact, he went to a place of thinking maybe he was like a Christ-like figure or like a John the Baptist even type figure that was supposed to be kind of introducing people to something that was bigger than himself, and then realize, wait a minute, as far as evolution, like I'm the top. I'm as far as it gets. I am like the Christ type figure, not in a religion, not well, it wasn't a religious way. Not, once again, we got to think of these as religion. People want to talk about religion and don't want to be honest about the fact that these people have religion. So he started lying and saying stuff, going about his lie that, hey, we are the German people of old. We have connection to the Charlemagne, to the people who killed off the Roman Empire, or at least the Western side, and all these different things. And so, hey, and how you doing, Wendy? Thanks for being on. Hey, we should be the people. We should be the people. Blonde hair, blue eyed, even though he wasn't even blonde hair, blue eyed. He's lying, cognitive dissonance about even what he claims within himself. Right. Nevertheless, though, hey, we're going to make sure that we do this and that. We're going to call it this. And he basically said, look, when I learned that we evolved, that's when I didn't have a problem making sure that I can go ahead and kill people off and do what was necessary, because that's who we are. Joseph Stalin, who killed more people than Hitler. Can I say that again? Because people don't want to talk about that. Joseph Stalin, who is responsible for more of his people dying than Hitler, by far. Thank you, Bounty. Appreciate that. It's nice. Right. Once again, who? Joseph Stalin, who's responsible for more of his people dying than Hitler. He came out the same thing, and he said straight up, when he went to school, he was going to school to actually be a preacher, right? He had a lot of different stuff he was going through and things of that nature, but he was supposedly supposed to go to school to become a preacher. He went to school and he said, wait a minute, there's something called evolution. He learned about it. He said, oh, well, if it's survival of the fittest in evolution, he says, well, then I should be able to do whatever I want. And he said it took a burden off him to recognize that he didn't have to be conformed to any god or deity, because he could do whatever he wants. Because, hey, if he was just the next level and he was supposed to be more fit, then it's supposed to be survival of the fittest. I mean, we can keep on going. We don't have to just stay in white or black. We can move up to more modern times. Papa Doc, Baby Doc, both went into a place of evolution and started using myths of spirituality, but didn't believe that there was really anything there. And they believed that they evolved to a place to where they were able to kill off their own people because they were a better family. And therefore, anybody who bowed down to them had evolved to a place to where they were ready to bow down. That's evolution. So then the Pope authorized many wars based off eugenics. Yeah, we wouldn't have called it eugenics back then, but you know, it was eugenics. I mean, basically, look at the what the papacy did as far as making sure that they started the wow, what am I having a why am I having the crusade? Sorry, I was having a little brain moment there. Right? Like that was a moment that he had. You know, um, the Pope basically said, "Look, we have a It basically said we have a what is it? Um, Basically, you had the Pope was supposed to be over all of Western Europe, and right, or all of Western Roman Empire that was left over, and that Roman Empire, just basically Europe. Remember, the word Europe just means Europa. Europa just means anything that belongs to Rome. So these people who came out of Rome, who are now into the Roman Empire, they're fighting each other and killing each other. The Pope isn't trying to deal with that. So since the Pope isn't going to deal with that, what does the Pope do? The Pope says, "Hey, we're going to go ahead." Well, I think it's going fine. I know people want me to go ahead and follow whatever they want, but I can't meet up to everybody's criteria. But nevertheless, the Pope says, "Look, everything is going bad. Hey, stop fighting each other and fight the people in Jerusalem because they're brown and they're black and they're Muslim, and they're Hebrew. That's still left over there. Some of them that are scattered are still in there, the Israelites. So go take from them what belongs to us, right? Go take from them what belongs to us." And he sent them over there to fight animalistic behavior. If you say that you come from an animal, it's easy to say, "Hey, go take care of those animals." They come from animals. That's what happened with with the Congo, Republic of the Congo, Republic of the Congo, Belgium. Belgium's still one of the most racist places to go to this day. I don't care what anybody's gonna tell you. Nobody talks about it. You know. All right, Brianna. Amen. But this is, people don't want to recognize. They don't talk about this. They don't want to think about the fact that, like, what happened with that was that you had black people that were over minding their own business. They were actually in an area that nobody had really started colonizing yet. The Belgian king, Leopold the First, really couldn't get his hands on it, but Leopold the Second, he actually goes over, takes, states without anybody's permission. Basically, he's not allowed by his country. His country doesn't want to colonize anybody. So what he does is he says, "Okay, I'm going to say that this is actually property of a corporation." He makes a fake corporation, just like the United States is a fake corporation. He takes his cues from them and goes and creates a fake corporation, then takes all of his soldiers that are in Belgium, has them, says, "I'll double pay you. Basically, I'll pay you to be part of the. You're already getting paid by Belgium. I'll pay you more to be able to go over to this corporation for me real quick and work for me." He sends them all back to boot camp and reteaches them and teaches them things like, "Hey, you're going to go over there and you're going to see people that are going to exhibit human-like behavior. But I need you to understand, even though they talk like you and they walk like you and they speak like you and they have a culture just like you have a culture and they have children." He said, they taught them during this new boot camp, "These are not human beings. Treat them like animals. Animalistic behavior is all right. Right? We have evolved to be greater than them." And then they sent them over to commit some of the worst atrocities. You talk about millions and all this stuff. Like, there's millions of people that were killed. See, when people say we're exaggerating on numbers, when people start talking about 100 million people in the diaspora killed, right? You got to comprehend that's not an exaggeration. Just in Belgium by itself. See, because we try to do this America only thing, we forget about the world, right? Just in Belgium by itself, you're dealing with at least 10 million brothers and sisters killed. We're talking about hands cut off, you know, children's hands cut off because they didn't get a quota of rubber. Right. This is what we're talking about. And you have people that are going to argue against it because they'll even and here's something else that they'll say. Yeah, that is very animalistic, right? Here's the argument that people will use. They'll say, "Well, it was a different time." You know what they're trying to say? They're trying to say, "Well, we evolved." See, it's a way of not being held accountable. It was a different time, in that time that would have been more acceptable. But we've evolved since then to think differently. What you mean, your great granddaddy did that and now you doing different? Because your great granddaddy was still over there in 1940s. Matter of fact, at really real time, they still kind of there today, but they definitely was there through the 50s, 60s, 70s, because even though they came out on paper, they didn't like the fact that Lumumba came out and didn't kiss their behind on the way out. And he actually gave a speech and came against them. And since you didn't like that, you basically paid somebody else to be a false leader for our people, and you killed off Lumumba. right? Leopold III, and so that's Belgium with the help of um, so Leopold III with the help of all of the people. That's what he did. With the help of the CIA, right? They still beat the brakes off of the Republic of Congo. Then people want to turn around and say, why does the Republic of Congo have problems? Because of you. The same people who go on the news and just say we're just some random people who don't know what we're doing. We're backwards. Who made us backwards? We were kings before you. And we came and we taught you. And unfortunately, we taught you and entrusted you, but we didn't teach you. We didn't make sure that we comprehended whether or not you were ready to keep what we taught you, not to twist it. See, because in your culture you attack, in our culture we flow. In your culture we attack. You attack. What were the years of what the about Belgium? In Belgium, you can just look up Leopold starts there. So you're talking about, Leopold II starts heavy like what the early 1900s. Leopold III, and then the CIA and all that stuff, and then basically you can say till today, still going on, still affected. Yeah, quota of rubber when you're dealing with the Congo. That was the main thing that they went into the Congo for. Republic of Congo was for that rubber. Yeah, we were taught backwards. Yeah. And see, that's the deal. See, in all the teaching that we gave, we did not teach civilization. See, like, because comprehend what I mean by that. I'm not saying, see, I don't think that you can call. I know some people would, but I don't go by the social constructs the way that others do. I don't believe that you can call somebody uncivilized just because they're white. I don't do that. Or you can say that they don't have any civilization. I don't do that because civilization just means how you live in your community. So that's why we say, "Hey, Grand Rising, Sister Betty, how you doing?" So civilization is literally saying, like, when you come to my people, this is what causes us to be civilized. When you go to their people, this is what causes them to be civilized. I'm not having an argument about whether somebody's civilized or not. I'm telling you what our civilization says versus theirs. I'm telling you what our culture says against theirs. I'm telling you what our beliefs are against theirs, right? And by the way, even when we say white, we have to be careful because that's a social construct. Because the Italian construct is not necessarily the same as the English construct, right? Now they'll get together ultimately on certain things to keep on splitting up Africa and to keep on taking money from people of color and things like that. Sure, right? But be careful because that's when you get beat. I'm sorry, TJ said the magnitude of evil. To this day, they have chocolates in the shape of hands. Yeah, call them N-word hands. They're not just there, but they're in Swiss. They also, you go to Brazil, Brazil nuts. You think they call Brazil nuts or whatever? Those are called N-word toes. You want some Brazil nuts? You don't look for Brazil nuts. You look for N-word toes. Why? Because they cut off N-word's toes. People, people don't know. But ask some of your peoples, ask some of your elders, ask some of your people, ask some of your elders about that. What they call, what they call that. What they call, if they've ever heard those terms. Yeah, Yashua is the answer. Thank you. So, and Yashua tells us Yashua himself dealt with racism. He dealt with the woman at the well. What was that? Her and him having a conversation about a social construct that didn't need to exist. And so he brought her out of animalistic behavior into the spirit. Come on. Yeah. So we don't ignore it. We don't ignore if somebody puts something that's in the system. Matthew chapter 15. Anything that is put into this that is not of my father, it must be uprooted. Right? So anything that wasn't put here by Abba, we got to pull it out. You know, anything, anything, including the system that is so vile to make people come against each other because of something that should be appreciated of everybody, such as the color of skin. So much so that people are afraid to talk about color and come on here all the time telling me outright that we shouldn't talk about color. Telling me outright that I don't see color, telling me outright that I don't know what you're talking about with color and this and that or whatever. Why are you talking about color? Why are you speaking on color? Why are you doing this? Right? Because you're afraid to deal with the fact that, hey, if you see me, then you should see everything that's part of me and love every part of me. If you say you love me, you said you're Caucasian, but you love everyone. I see only people's heart. You're colorblind. See, so I didn't even before we got there, right? Well, if you're colorblind, and that's something that's terrible, right? And we're praying in the name of Yahshua that you be able to receive your sight. because we don't want the blind leading the blind. You know, like we're praying that you receive your sight. If you can't see color, that's a terrible place to be in comparison to what you could see and what you could be. I'd hate to see somebody go through eternity and never be able to see color because colors are even in heaven. There's an emerald rainbow, Revelation chapter 4. There's gold that the streets are paved with. There's 12 precious stones that make up the foundation in the walls. The pearls that are going to be there are going to be exquisite. That'd be a terrible place to get to, a place and not be able to see color. Right? But once again, it's animalistic behavior. Animalistic behavior says that I'm going to go ahead. See this animal over here, they're colorblind and they're able to survive and blah blah. But they're not even necessarily colorblind. They just see in a different way than you do. You said Elohim is, well, God might be colorblind because you can make God whatever you want. Elohim is not colorblind. He mentions color in the Bible. He's okay with color. He created colors, right? You said, do they have a license? I don't quite comprehend the thing, right? But yeah, people could come on, and that's part of this whole thing. Animalistic behavior. Animalistic behavior gets you to start changing things, right? But the interesting thing, once again, like I said, is cognitive dissonance because people don't even comprehend that animals are more obedient to the natural law than man is. See, so when I say, see, watch this. I have no problem with the color of my skin. And I see it every day. And when I see it, I don't say, "Oh, I'm worse than somebody else." I don't see it and go, "Oh, oh my, I'm better than somebody else." I don't see it and say, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to survive." You know what? When I see my color, I say, "Man, that's part of who Kofi is," and I love that. Somebody else says, "Even though you love that about yourself, I need to be blind to that in order to see your heart." Well, why can't you see my heart and see my color at the same time? You think that Yahweh Elohim is bound by what you're bound by to where he can't see color and heart at the same time? The reason why you have a tough time with color is because that you come from a culture that color used to mean that I had to be worse than you. Going back to The Origin of Species, The Theory of Evolution, The Struggle of Survival for Favored Races, written by Charles Darwin. And then his cousin would write a book on eugenics. And a whole society would take that as well as the white man's burden and manifest destiny and lost cause rhetoric and other things like that and manipulation of the word of God and continue it. We can continue to go down the road, right? The Daughters of the Confederacy, all these different things, the United States Corporation versus the United States of America. And we'll come up with a system to where certain white people were on top and then everybody else had to get in where they fit in between the darkest of dark on the bottom. But that's not my system. That's why you're frustrated. You're upset by the fact that I'm okay with seeing color and can still love somebody. I'm okay with seeing somebody that you would call white, which, by the way, you can't be white because white would mean that you have no color and that you're basically bright and that you're translucent. And that's not what a white person is. So I can see a person in that social construct and still show them love, honor, and respect. And you can't, right? You have a problem with me being able to do that because in the culture that you came from, you know that when they said I can't see color, what they were saying is I can't hate you because my color was something to hate. But maybe you should come out of that culture and that system of thinking that's oppressive and say, wait a minute, color doesn't have to mean I have to hate it, right? Color doesn't mean I have to hate it. Marsha said, think when Yashra made everyone, they were all white and turned tan darker over time. Yeah, that's foolishness. That's something that you're doing on purpose just to try and irk me. That's fine. He said, I guess it was my grandmother's way of saying love everyone. Yeah, but guess what? What was the time that your grandmother came from? Your grandmother came from a time in which color was considered to be a bad thing to discuss. So in her mind and in other people's mind, it taught her that because she comes from other people who came before her. So she had a grandmother in there. And maybe her grandmother wasn't somebody that was racist. Maybe she was, I don't know. But maybe her grandmother came to her and said, hey, don't talk about color. It's not proper to talk about color. Don't love them in spite of their color. This is what, see the language. You got to comprehend the language. I love you in spite of your color. Well, why is my color bad? See, we don't comprehend it. We don't comprehend the conversation that's going on. Sherilyn said Grand Rising. Yes, that's what they were called. And oh yeah, N-word toes. And you were coming up and you're 60. Yeah. Oh, do they see yellow, red, and green? Oh, a driver's license. That's what you're talking about. Yeah. Do they say yellow, red, and green? Yeah. Saying, can I prove what I just said about heaven? I'm sorry, Desmond. What are you challenging that I said about heaven? I said quite a few different things. If you want to put it in the Q&A box, that's probably the best way to be able to make sure I can get it. But what is it that you're saying that I said is so bad about heaven? I'm not sure what you're talking about. You're talking about heaven or color? Can I prove that there's colors in heaven? I can prove it by what Revelation chapter 21. Somebody gonna have to help me with the verse. Is it verse 18? Let me look it up. Can I prove what it says about colors in heaven? Well, I can prove Revelation chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. It talks about the color of Yahshua himself. I can prove Revelation chapter 21 when it talks about the different colors that'll be seen in heaven. I can prove even when you say the color white, because the color white doesn't actually mean what you think. You think that white means this because somebody changed the color, right? But white, it actually means bright, translucent. You can see through it, or basically, yeah, basically bright, or you can see through it. There is no color. The whiter something is, the less color something has. That's how that works. So that's not even that part of it is not difficult, right? Now, once again, it doesn't mean, and by the way, look at Revelation chapter 7 if you want to know who's actually going to be in heaven. Like look at Revelation chapter 7 if you actually want to see who's going to be in heaven, and then therefore everybody after that must be grafted into those who are going to be who must be sealed. Read Revelation chapter 7, start at verse 4. That's pretty simple. But Revelation chapter 21. I just want to make sure that I mentioned it. Let me make sure I go to the right verse. I feel like it's verse 18, but I could be wrong. Yeah, verse 18. Right, Revelation 21, verse 18. And the building of the wall, it was as of jasper. Jasper has a color, right? Matter of fact, if you like, let's do it like this real quick, and then we're gonna go back to animalistic behavior. That's our focal point, right? But sometimes, this helps people with the animalistic behavior sometimes if you just go to it. So, let's just see what these things look like. Actually, I don't know if I can go through all of them because I got so many pictures on here. It's going to be difficult for me, but let's just go through these real quick. So it says the first one looked like jasper. All right. This is jasper. What color is that? Does that have a color? All right. Second one that pops up. Let's just go through these colors. I'm just going to show you the colors. We're not going to do a Bible study on it, right? If people want to go on YouTube channel, look up Revelation Revisited, and look up the bonus session that we had in that series, and 12 precious stones. Feel free to go on there, right? This is what the second color looks like, right? This is wisdom, right? Sapphire, right? This is these are colors, right? So Yah sees colors. But matter of fact, once again, go to Revelation chapter 4. I told you that it says in Revelation chapter 4 that he has an emerald rainbow over him, right? This is Chalcedony. Next stone up. You see the colors? You see the color pattern? I'm gonna just give you one more. I'm not gonna go through all the 12 precious stones because these are things you could easily just look up. Instead of saying, can I prove? You could easily just read the scripture, read your Bible, it'll bless you, right? But let me just give you one more, right? Here's emerald, which is what it also says the rainbow in Revelation chapter 4 above his head is going to look like. Well, here's what emerald. I'm sorry if you guys are on other ones. I'm sorry. I've shown the color red or red brownish, a certain type of blue, another certain type of blue, and now I'm showing a certain type of green, right? That's all right there in front of you. So if you want to believe what the word says, then that's up to you, right? But I can't force you, right? I can't force you to simply just believe what something says or to take what it says as what some people would say is gospel. You have to be willing to do that on your own. But seek the truth. Seek and you will find, right? Said your future son-in-law is black. Okay. I'm doing well, Mike. Thank you. You said she lived to be 104. You said no, she loved all colors. No, but what I'm saying is, well, first of all, that's what you know about your grandmother. Because everybody loves their grandmama. Like my grandmama has some issues, but people don't like it when I bring up my grandmama's issues because they're like, "That's your grand." But nobody's perfect. Secondly, what I'm saying is, even if your grandmother did love people of all colors, what I'm saying is that think of the language that she was taught as Black people were taught, even to use. Hey, you should love everybody in spite of their color. When I say love everybody in spite of your color, right? What am I saying? You hear what I'm saying? So it's not a thing of whether she loved all colors, this, that, or whatever. I'm not coming against your grandmother. I don't know your grandmother, right? I don't know your grandmother. it's not it's not about the knowing of your grandmother. It's not me trying to put your grandmother down. What I'm trying to tell you is that in that time range, they started coming up with language because black was considered to be bad. This is how see people don't know how this stuff works. People don't know how in society this stuff has gone down for so long. And since people don't know how this stuff works, people don't comprehend how to be able to deal with this stuff correctly. But since people don't know how this works, it's a very difficult conversation. But look, really know how law works to know if what I'm saying is correct, right? But we're so into animalistic behavior that the people who actually use human law or laws created for humans, they've taught you to be so much into animalistic behavior that rather than read, we fight, right? Rather than read, we fight. See, because animals don't read. Animals don't read, you know. So even when we read, we or rather than read, rather we fight. So let me hip you to the game to show you. All you got to do is pick up something called Black's Law Dictionary. BLACK apostrophe S, Black's Law Dictionary. It's not saying this is a law for black people. It was written by a gentleman, and I call him a gentleman because I'm not a gentleman, because gentlemen do some wild stuff. But it's written by a gentleman who has the last name Black. Yeah, amen. Read your Bible, bless you, right? So when you look up Black's Law Dictionary, it gives you all the legal definitions that people use in court of law still to this day, all over the Western world, which is pretty much all over the world nowadays, still. All right. And if you look up in Black's Law Dictionary, what if you look up the color black, right? Or if you look up black, Negro, um, African American, things like that, they will tell you that that is an artificial person. If you say I'm a black man or a black woman, by law, they will say you're not real. That's their culture. That they say in their civilization that anything that comes out of you, anything that comes from me, if I were to label it black, they would say we have to label it as artificial. Why? Because that speaks to my humanity. Look up in Black's Law Dictionary the word human. The word human they'll say SEEC, monster, as in we don't even have a definition for it. Go look up the definition of monster to figure out what a human being is. And when you look up the definition, legal definitions, I'm talking about, when you go to court, look up a legal definition. What is a monster legally? A monster is somebody that has no rights and is a detriment to society. So when you're arguing this, I'm telling you that it's greater than just one person. You're thinking about not my grandmother. My grandmother could never. I'm not talking about your grand. I'm talking about a system. That's why Yahshua taught us to be in the world, but that word world is cosmos with a K. Kosmos, not with a C. C would have meant it's a physical place, a terraformer. K is talking about a system. Be ye in the system, but you got to find a way to come out of it. Right? You got to find a way to come out of it. And yes, obviously, I'm aware of other scriptural books or other canons and things like that. Yeah, most definitely, Sister Betty. Have them stop checking that box. No, I'm not a gentleman because gentlemen do a lot of gentlemen hung people from trees. Nothing gentle about a gentleman, right? It's like if I was out there doing some work or whatever, you know, I wouldn't be or if there's a white guy and a black person next to each other, one would be a cowhand, one would be a cowboy. Which one do you think was which? Very careful about the language that I use. By religion is just what a legion of people do every day to repetitively do stuff. My religion is to drink water when I get up. My religion is to make sure that I eat food and eat healthy. My religion is to make sure I love my wife and honor her. My religion is to make sure that I'm about kingdom law, marital law, natural law, universal law, laws of attraction law, first mention common law, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, if you're looking, what you're looking for is not what is my religion. What people mean by what is your religion is they're really saying, like, what do you call yourself? I don't call myself anything. What my ancestors have called us are things like followers of the way, or Shui, or Yashvea, things of that nature. And if you like to look those up, you can feel free. We have a whole thing on our YouTube channel literally called Having Been Led as We Believe, 25, 26, 28, something like that parts. So if you really want some of that, you can feel free. We're on here every rise at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. And we're on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time. So you said the Bibles are pretty much all the same. No, they're not. They are most certainly are not. The NIV version is not only going to read different than it. First of all, you got to comprehend, how do you get a Bible that, you see what I'm saying? We're showing the animalistic behavior. They shepherd you. They herd you into certain positions. You become sheep of the wrong shepherd. Right? As an animal, you have developed into somebody who wants somebody to lead you and tell you whatever. Not only does the NIV read different than others, the NIV is missing whole scriptures. Like, just they've taken out, they haven't just changed, they've literally taken out a lot of your Bibles, even King James versions of your Bible. You don't even have a Revelation chapter 12, verse 18. How can you say that you're getting the full version of Revelation and you're missing the whole verse? An important verse to the comprehension of it. By the way, whenever somebody gets a new Bible published, they'd have to change 10% of the words. That means one out of every 10 words out of a Bible, you think it's just a version because that's just their way of being able to say what the Holy Spirit said to them. No, in order for them to legally print out and sell another Bible, another version, they have to change one out of every 10 words. Do you know how dangerous that is in anything as far as interpretation, let alone what we say is supposed to be the unadulterated, right? The unchanged word of the Most High. Right. So when we say stuff like that, we have to be careful. That's because we got that from somebody else. You said you're saved by grace. What is the word? Yeah, the word grace. The word grace is just kata, so charisma. So it's His grace, who He is. So we're saved by who He is. I know somebody would turn that into unmerited favor. That's not what kata, so charisma means, right? But once again, we have animalistic behavior. We as animals, they just tell you to go this way. You go this way. They prod you this way. Right? They get the cops to prod you this way. They get your teacher to prod you this way. They get a pastor to prod you this way. Don't think that you don't. You look at a lot of these pastors. A lot of these pastors are wearing Masonic rings. They're prodding you. They're pushing you a certain way. I mean, let's just keep it 100. I've been behind the scenes. I've seen how this stuff works. So what Bible do I read? I read many. I guess you could say most of the King James version when we're doing these lessons. However, it's still a version, and that's why we always talk about culture first, because a lot of people don't even know how to read a Bible. They've never read Paleo Hebrew. They don't comprehend about Shit. It comes before Genesis. They don't know about Shemot. Comes before Exodus. And some people have no clue what I'm even talking about when I mention those. Right? Some people are still saying Levi instead of Levi. People don't recognize it. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, your culture is going to be messed up. And it's the culture of everything. You can read the Bible, whatever version you want, but if you don't know the culture, you're going to read it wrong every time. Thanks for being part of the community, Justice. Rapture is a lie. Depending on how you use it, the word rapture wasn't supposed to be like everybody's clothes got to disappear, this and that, or whatever. Raptor or rapturo is just Latin, and all it means is being snatched up. That's why they call birds of prey raptors. Raptors come down, right? Or in the movies, because they're in the evolution stuff, they call the raptors, which were supposed to be like closer to bird size, but they make them, bigger than humans, or on the same level as humans, basically. But that's why they call them raptors. Raptors is just supposed to be like something that can come and snatch you. The fastest animal on earth is a raptor, a bird that can come down, make its body very streamlined, go at about 240 something, 250 something miles per hour, and then it actually doesn't grab its prey with its talons. It actually like makes a fist with its talons and hits it really hard. and basically breaks the animal's back or something, or skull or something like that, and then eats it. So that's really what all rapture meant, was it's going to be real quick, a snatching or hitting, even a striking. That's it. That's all it's really saying. But once again, when you don't comprehend the culture, even somebody else's language, when they're trying to do stuff, you're gonna miss it. Just like when we talk about all the time, why do we call it a firmament? Firmament is a Greek god, a Greek deist. Why are we calling Hakia a Greek god? It's because that you have the story of Gaia, who was supposed to be the Big Bang, and then out of Gaia comes Neptune and Firmament, and then she has sex with her own son, Firmament, and Firmament and her have all these children, right? And that leads to the gods and leads to all types of other things that happen, and imps and all those other things that are going to come out of it. That's how that happened. Jonathan said, when injustice is served, it hurts everyone, especially because of the judge made law policies. I mean, well, eventually, yeah, it should hurt everyone. The problem is that when you're in a system where injustice is justice, then does it hurt? Does it hurt a judge? Does it hurt a police officer to put a whole bunch of people in? I don't know. Let's say since the 1980s to the 90s to the 2000s to the 2010s to the 2020s. Does it hurt to keep putting people in prison? You know, that's 40 years. So let's say that person was a police officer and started putting people in prison in their 20s, early 20s. Well, let's say they were a detective even, or let's say they were a high-ranking police officer in their mid-20s. So, you know, they're 65, right? At 65, already retired from the force and everything at that point. They put in so many brothers because they said that they found a bag of weed on them, even if sometimes they planted the weed. Did that injustice? Was that an injustice for everybody? Now, ultimately, the Most High will speak on behalf of those brothers and sisters that had to deal with that. But this system is not set up to make sure it's adjust. Now, so if even when you say that, you say, "Oh, I feel a certain way, I empathize," and we appreciate that. But what I'm trying to get you to is the empathy is not going to be what gets us out. There's going to be some action at some point that needs to take place. Love the empathy, right? Appreciate it, but at some point there's going to have to be some kind of action. There's going to have to be some kind of pulling away. There's going to be have to be some kind of, we're going to go into a land that's for us. And forgive me, TikTok, you're going to disappear for just a second. Hold on. So we're going to have to come into something soon. We're going to have to. We're going to have to come into something very soon. You said I have a live religion. Is that what you were talking to me? What is my live religion? Because religion, once again, everybody's religious. Oh, okay, I get what you're saying. Okay, never mind. I'm with you, Zero. Sorry about that. I'm not sure. I haven't read that version, Edward. I've read a lot of the Ethiopian Bible, and so far, what I've seen seems to be on point. And experts that are way greater than I, as far as being able to decipher that, say that it's one of the best versions that are out there. You know, it's close, very close to the original Paleo Hebrew. So I have no problem with it. Thanks for the love, Ransom. Appreciate it. Said I do agree. I do agree. Religion today is not what the Bible's teachers say. Well, yeah, once again, but religion is talking about what you do on a daily basis. So it's culture. Of course, it's not correct that people don't know culture. But once again, it's animalistic behavior. Animalistic behavior. It is animalistic behavior, right? No, 666 is 666. We already gone over that before. We already know how to do Hebrew characters. 600, three score and six. It's not three sixes. It's not right. It's not the for some people trying to say well because they're using a Greco-Roman shift and trying to make it Hebrew, right? That's not what that is. It's not three sixes. It's 600, three score and six. We can write that out in Hebrew by the characters and be able to spell out the name, right? So you said that is Revelations. It says I think it says all shall receive the mark. No, all people that are going to bow down to the devil and be part of the beast are going to receive the mark. But once again, animalistic behavior says that all, no accountability. You're just an animal. You can only be expected to do whatever. No, it's animalistic behavior, right? We want to make sure that we're teaching out of the reality. The reality is that you are a human being. The reality is that you were created. See, if you're created, then it means you have to be responsible for what the Most High created. Peep game, right? Well, I said this earlier. Animalistic behavior gets us to this place that we are in now, where people are arguing things and trying to argue things off of themselves because they're trying their best to put themselves in a position to where they do not need to be held accountable. No law. Why? Well, there's no law. I just do whatever I want, and the great shepherd will come and take me as a sheep. But the sheep should know my voice. The sheep have to be obedient and disciplined. Do you not know how it works with sheep? Sheep have to be a discipline. They have to be held accountable, right? Sheep have to be held accountable. And I am that I am. That's poetic license. That wasn't even originally written. But that's where people get the whole ahaya or hayach things from that's taking place. But that's not even his name. Exodus 3:14, even if you read it in English, he says that I am. But verse 15, he tells you what his name is. He says it's the Lord God. Well, if you translate Lord God into Hebrew and look in your concordance, read your Bible, it'll bless you. Read the concordance, it tells you that's Yahweh Elohim. So he was saying his authority is Yahweh Elohim, the Elohim, the name, or the title, Yahweh, the name, right? But we are not, but sheep have to be obedient. Do you not know when it comes to sheep that sheep even have to have their legs sometimes broken by the shepherd because the sheep keeps running away and trying to do whatever it wants, and the shepherd gets tired of having to fight the bear and the lion, wolf, and go on these long things and have to lead all the other sheep in the places they're not supposed to go to, or have to leave the sheep here and have to go after one sheep. So sometimes they'll even break the leg of the sheep and then have the sheep. That's when you see them over the shepherd's shoulders. They'll put the sheep over their shoulders to ensure that the sheep can see things from their perspective as they heal. And so once the sheep gets healed, now the sheep seeing it from the perspective of the Most High is going to be a blessing to others. That's why you're going through some of the things that you're going through now, is because that you've been trying so hard to make sure that you don't listen. Right. So even the sheep have to be trained, yet you're taught that true animalistic behavior, that tiger in you, that lion in you, that mamba in you, all these different terms that you hear, you think that it means go outside of natural law. Push past natural law, push past the limits of law, fall down 7 times, get up 8, all these different things. But you don't know what it is to be human. Humans are created to have dominion. You're supposed to have dominion over the animals. Why would you want to be one? Why would you want to exhibit the same behavior that these animals exhibit? Why would you want to do that? Unless somebody's trying to tell you that you come from an animal and therefore now you have more in common in your mind. You have more in common in your mind with the animal than you do with yourself. Your children have more in common with the animal than they do with themselves because you've been taught that. You hear what I'm saying? Like you are more. You are more than an animal. Heck, you're supposed to be more than a conqueror, but you can't even be more than an animal. You hear what I'm saying? Animalistic behavior. You're supposed to be more than a conqueror, but you can't even be more than an animal. Trying to figure out people trying to figure out how to make evolution and the Bible go together when the Bible's very clear. It states what it is. It is what it is. What does that mean? These animals aren't our counterparts. So because the animal lives next to me, I'm supposed to be the animal. My wife and I aren't the same. My wife and I aren't the same. It's because we're not the same and we learn who we are and we execute where we're supposed to execute that things get done. I'm not the same as a roach. Maybe you say that's an insect and not an animal, but I mean, why is it that the insect has been? I'm not the same as a bird. Matter of fact, Yahshua told us in his word before he goes to Matthew 6:33, where he says, seek ye first the kingdom and all his righteousness, the kingdom of Elohim and all Elohim's righteousness, and all these things that you're looking for will be added unto you. Before that, he says, look, man, he's taking care of the birds and he's taking care of the lily in the field. He said Solomon didn't even look as good as the plant life, the vegetation. He said, so if he takes care of those, how much more is he going to take care of you? So you got to get out of this thing of trying to compare. He said, you're greater than that. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, we're all connected though, but that doesn't mean I'm an animal, is my point. If I have a pet, take care of the pet. Make sure that you take care of animals. Make sure that you don't run over the animals' environment so that they can live, that they can survive. Yes, Moses would have wrote in Paleo Hebrew. Matter of fact, Moses would have been the people will argue with me on this point. You know, they can feel free to, whatever, but Moses would have been the originator, if you will. He would have been the one that would have taken Kemetic writing and taken it and put it into, or he would have learned Kemetic writing first, and then would have started writing things out that somewhat are similar to what the Afro language, but he would have made the Afro language its own thing, to where now we know that when you compare Paleo Hebrew and what people call Egypticos, or stuff that's so hieroglyphics and stuff like that, you can see somewhat similarities in some of those things or whatever, but they're not the same, right? So you can see so much, so they're not the same, right? But yeah, now people will argue which version of Paleo Hebrew and all that stuff. That's a different argument. So yeah, and by the way, really, see, when I say he's, you even have to deal with some stuff too, because when I say that, you have to recognize that you also had people like Joseph, and Joseph and them were married, so you already had like things that were kind of already bubbling over. But Moses is going to be the first person to like establish exactly what we're going to write, because he's going to be the first person to write, you know, the our canon. We had canon, but it was never written up until Moses, right? There were Yahavites, there were Elohimites, there were all types of people. You know, Abraham. Abraham existed before Moses. All these different things, right? So it's important that we get that. So, but yeah, it's animalized behavior. People have gotten us to be shepherded or to be moved or removed from certain places, like animals do. They take away your environment. If you take away what's dangerous, what's more dangerous to an animal? You take away some of the animals, or you take away the environment. See, the animal is created for the environment, to be placed in the environment, right? So the animal is designed to be in the environment. You take an animal out of environment, you got a problem. You go to different islands, things like that, the crabs and stuff. I forget what the island is. There's an island out there that's kind of like all there out there by itself. And now human beings have been coming on there. They're building roads, different things like that. So now the crab population goes down because of that. They brought over certain types of ants and stuff like that over with them. So now these ants basically, have came, and they have this caustic stuff that they can basically squirt out into the eyes of the crabs and stuff. So now you get environment, right? They're using animalistic tactics on you, like an animal that's cornered. We remove your culture, we remove your environment, we remove your language, we remove your woman. We say your woman shouldn't dress like that, look like that, have hips like that, have lips like that, right? Have a behind like that, have breasts like that, have curves like that. Make fun of her to the point to where she wants to go ahead and get plastic surgery to remove some of who she is. And then while she's sitting up there trying to deal with that, here comes somebody else taking your culture and saying, "Oh, we'll take this and we'll make it." What was one of the new ones? My wife and I had to laugh at this. A couple of weeks ago now, 3 weeks ago, something like that, where there was a girl out there talking about some sticky bangs, which basically are like finger. What do you call them? Finger, not finger. Hairs or like edges. Yeah, we're basically we black women been doing their edges for years. Here comes this girl. She's like, oh, and I can't remember if she was white American or if she was white British. She sounded very British for a second, but then it was weird to me. It seemed like she lost her accent for a second during the video. But she was like, I'm so enamored by this, and I just want to continue this, and I'm and it looked bad. Like if a sister had that same thing on front, we would, she'd be joned on in our community, right? But it's like, but that's That's like what other people do. They'll tell you that it's wrong for you. They take you away from, they say that you're an animal to have it. But then after they make you feel like an animal, then they start saying it's theirs. And once they say it's theirs, they do what? They patent it. They take ownership over it. And by the way, it's an interesting thing because they can't patent. Like, hear what I'm telling you as far as this animalistic behavior. They can't patent lawfully, legally. You cannot patent what belongs to the Most High. So if a plant, hear what I'm saying. What this is what they're telling me about what they believe about you. Somebody was getting on me earlier and saying their ancestors weren't racist, blah blah. I told them it's not your ancestors I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about the system that your ancestors were partakers in, whether they wanted to be or not. We can argue that later on. But check this out. A person who wants to sell a plant or patent a plant, they have to genetically modify it. You hear what I'm saying? A person who wants to patent the plant has to genetically modify it. Okay, so that person patents a plant, they have to genetically modify it. But somebody can patent what you created after they tell you that it's of no value. Somebody can then patent what you created, and they don't have to modify it. All they have to do is say, "Well, when you did it, I didn't even consider you to be on the same level as a plant." Did you hear what I just said? Right? Animalistic behavior while telling you how great they are. Right? While telling you how great they are. While telling you how you're the problem because you see color. They'll tell you that if they see somebody of your color put it on, it's all right to patent it because you're not even on the same level as a plant. Because if a plant was, they tried to use it, they'd say the Most High made that plant. Well, the Most High made you. Why is it that they can take what you do and patent it? It's because they don't respect you. You said Joan Lingo. Well, I learned it from DC, but it's all over the place. It's in Louisiana, it's in New Orleans, it's in Atlanta. I'm not really sure. DC will usually argue. DC cats will usually argue that it came from there first. But yeah, usually when you talk about Joan or whatever, or that Joan or whatever, right? Usually you talking about DC, right? And thank you for the love. I'm sorry, that was it Sauce or SOS boy? Thank you for the love, appreciate it. But you got to recognize. So they're telling you, right? They're telling you, like we can modify what you do, but we won't modify what a plant does, right? Right? Because if we modify what the plant does, then it means that you hear what I'm saying? There are people that have more. And by the way, I'm not making this up. You guys know that you can look this up for yourselves. Look up some of these ladies who've been out here, or some of these brothers too who've been out here, and they've been sitting up here talking about how plants are better, and you know, we should treat plants with respect. We should treat plants and animals with respect. And I hate human beings, but I love plants. That's animalistic behavior. And by the way, once again, it's weird because they'll tell us that's animalistic behavior and it's okay. That's the laws of nature to make it whatever they need it to be, which is just odd. But meanwhile, elephants don't put plants before elephants. you know, Elephants don't put plants before a human being. If there's a human being in their way, if unless it finds a human being a threat, if there's a human being in the way, they try to go around, or they try to let the human know, move out the way. Right? But you got people out here talking about plants are better than you, animals are better than you. We keep thinking this is an old thing because somebody says animals are better than you. That's racism. That there was a time that you could, by law, you could step on a young black boy's head and crush it. Nobody would have a problem. But if you stepped on a young dog's head and crushed it, everybody would lose their mind. It's the same structure. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's a system. You're saying that because the system looks a little different, it's not the same system. It's the same system. They came out the same system. You said they are alive. Shouldn't we respect nature? Yes, we should respect nature. Should I respect the plant more than the human being? If I see, we're not going to shift it. I'm not going to shift it. I'm not going to be struck by somebody's going to try to get me to agree with stuff that is not human type behavior. Like if I have a choice, if there's a plant or if there's a child, and I'm running and I can't slow down, I got to make go one way or the other. One of them's going to get hurt, the plant or the child. I'm going to respect the plant. I think we get the basic concept. I'm not saying that we should go around killing the earth. If anybody, if you know about it, well, and that's when people don't know of me, right? So I have to stop making the assumption that people are not making assumptions about me, and that people actually know about us. And this is not somebody's first time listening to us, right? But we talk about natural medicine and being sovereign, not just on paper, but making sure you grow your own food and wearing things that are naturally your clothing, and being in tune with the fact that, like, our hair even mimics the trees and the trees mimic us. And as you breathe out into the tree receives it and breathes out into you. And so, yeah, but I'm not going to get into that part of it. Like, I think, I haven't said anything that says that we're disrespecting to disrespect nature. What I'm saying is that as far as Yah made it, you are over nature. Your children come over nature. Your children come over animals. And anybody who's out there telling me that their dog is their child, or is like a child, that's not according to the word of Yah. That's not according to natural law. I mean, it is what it is. I'm sorry if that hurts somebody's feelings. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that somebody shouldn't make sure that they're taking care of their stuff, right? I'm not saying that people shouldn't take care of animals. I'm not saying that your pet, if I came over your house and your pet was showing some kind of happiness to see me or whatever, I would just I would mean mug it, right? However, your pet is not on the same level as my child. Never has been, never will be. Period. And if somebody doesn't like it, then they just don't. That's something I'm not going to sugarcoat. That just is what it is. I mean, that is what it is. I wish I could make that sound better, sound nicer. Yeah, but at the end of the day, like the dog, the cat, the goldfish, right? The lobster, whatever it is that you got up in there, they are not going to be put in the same position as my child. The horse, the cow, I don't care what it is. They're not on the same level. Shark Island was a precursor. I mean, well, I'd say just stuff they were doing in general to people. I mean, you could talk about the slave castles were a precursor and all that. People are getting felonies for leaving dogs outside too long. And look, once again, I don't think that people should leave dogs outside too long. But I don't know if they should get to, but there's people that get more time, like you're saying, there's people that get more time behind bars for the dog being left outside than for people who have been killing people by hanging them from trees. That's a problem. That's a problem. You said not more than the other, but equally? No. First of all, equality is a myth. I've already said this once. Let's take this outside of animals, right? I'm not going to do the animalistic thing. Let's take this outside of animals. My wife and I are not equal to each other. It doesn't mean I'm better than her. It doesn't mean she's better than me. We're not equal to each other. And therefore, putting ourselves where we're supposed to be, we actually can submit properly one to another in the fear or in the respect of Yahweh, of what he wants for us, right? We're able to respect one another and to love one another because we're not busy trying to be equal one to another, right? So even in that sense, I already said what I said about animals. Even in that sense, why would you make an animal equal to you? Why? Why would you make another human being equal to you? Why would you make a child equal to you? My child is not equal to me. Matter of fact, my goal is to get my child to be greater than me. So I need to figure out what my child does and what their gift is, what their calling is, what their love language is, all that, so that they can be greater. Right? Equality is a myth. There are no two human beings that have ever been equal. He's a natural fighter. There's no equality. There's no two people who have ever had the same equal fingerprint. Do you think you and a dog would have equal fingerprints? Koalas have close to fingerprint. Koalas actually have fingerprints so much like humans that there are actually people who have been locked up because they said that there were fingerprints that were similar to theirs. That's how similar koala fingerprints are. But they could only say similar enough, but they weren't the same. And would you say that just because a koala, even let's say this could happen, a koala and you have the same fingerprint, do you think that that means that you and the koala are exactly the same? Do you think you can speak the same? No, you know what I'm saying? And then people get into a place, well, it's the soul. I see the soul of the animal, and this and that. Look, we're not talking about it. We're talking about equality. And it's somebody trying to shepherd you into animalistic behavior. I am not an animal, period. My child is not an animal. My children are not animals. My wife is not an animal. You know where that came from? That's a Greco-Roman mentality that says that you are supposed to be in love with animals and sleeping with animals. That's where that stuff comes from. Maybe even Etruscan. Not quite sure because we can't really read the Etruscan culture the way that it should be read. But maybe even Etruscan, the Greeks and the Romans took from the Greeks and the Etruscans. But we know for a fact that like it is a very romantic thing to be able to start dealing with these things because guess what? It's romanticized. It's romanticized to be with. And that's why you like to read. That's why your books have stuff in them like people who are half goat and half man, right? Right? That's why you have fairies. The fairies used to be like half flower and half fairies, or half birds and half fairies. That's why they got wings. Insects, even. I said the Etruscans. It's I don't know if I'm gonna spell this correctly. It's Etruscan S. If you want to put an N on it, right? Etruscans, and just do a little bit of research on them. But they were black. Matter of fact, maybe go do a YouTube. I'm trying to think of a book. I don't think I have a great book of value that I would say I would for the Etruscans that I've read. Um, but yeah, if you go on YouTube, YouTube's going to be pretty powerful as far as just look up Etruscans, especially if you look up Etruscans and black or Etruscans were black or something like that. You'll find a lot of pretty interesting stuff. But we don't. But it's hard to figure out because when the Romans took over them, they basically kind of wiped out the Etruscan culture so much so that it's hard to really figure out what they were about. We know that they got things from the Etruscans. They say as much, but we don't really know. We're limited in how they actually lived. Um, so yeah, but yeah, you got to recognize these things, and it's really animalistic behavior. It's animalistic behavior. Get you to fight or to fight against your human response. Do you not think that it's pretty interesting as much as they talk about religion and all this stuff? Do you not find it pretty interesting that more people started dying after evolution and stuff like World War One, two, the what is it, the 7 Years War, the 100 Years War? Actually, I don't know if the 100 Years War predates um, chattel slavery, maybe, or if it dates after chattel slavery. I'm pretty sure it does. World War One, World War Two, the Korean War. Yeah, I'm just going off American wars. I mean, we could talk about Russia's war with Prussia. We could talk about the Russian war where they were trying to take away other things. It turns into the USSR. We could talk about North Korea, which, by the way, is coming from a place kind of sort of evolution where you have a human being that says they're a deity and literally, or a god or a spirit that's above their people and literally has the people programmed, even though a lot of people believe it to be a lie that are there, but they have to just go along with the flow. But in North Korea, with Kim Jong Un and I can't remember the other ones before him, but it's his granddaddy and his daddy. They basically said like they evolved into godhood. If we were to use Germanic terms, they basically said they evolved into godhood. They said they literally don't even use the bathroom. They told the people that they don't have a exit hole for their waste because they don't need it. That's animalistic. But where do you think that comes from? What allowed for that mindset to be? What allows for that thought process to be? What allows for that to happen? What allows for you to be in a system that you can become a deity, right? They believe that deists, your founding fathers, if you believe yourself to be an American, at least a modern American, your founding fathers said that you are a deist, or they were deists, excuse me. So they said that they could become, gods, deists, deities. And George Washington could pull the teeth out of his own slaves. I'm telling you true stories, right? That he is quoted in on his property. When you go over to Mount Vernon, thank you. When you go over to Mount Vernon, his property. When you go over there, they have this written down, documented. He pulls the teeth out of his own slaves, put them in his mouth. You go over to that property, and they'll tell you the story. They'll still tell you the true story of how he had a woman that was there, a black woman. So she wouldn't have been counted as a woman in his eyes, and his overseer beat her extremely, and then beat her a second time in extreme manner. Then told him about it, and he listened to the story and said, "Well, you did what was necessary." That's the person in that culture who you have that obelisk of, right, which represents his phallus, the phallus that fell apart because he had syphilis. He died because he was, rapin, too many black women, right? And not allowing them, to clean themselves and do things like that. And so he ended up being sick and dying because of it. And they put up an obelisk. The obelisk is just a Kemetic phallus. That's what it's supposed to be, or a Kemetic, even like a dildo of sorts. Like that's what it's supposed to be. And he put up that to make sure that it was a reminder of who he's supposed to be, your father. And then he put up Columbia instead of putting up Isis. Somebody was talking about Isis and Osiris earlier. You need to figure out that it's not Christianity. Well, Christianity is a whole bunch of mix, but it's not the Bible itself that you need to be worried about copying off of Horus story. You need to be more so concerned about the horror story of right there in Washington, D.C., the corporation right there. You got the father God, Washington, the mother god, Columbia, who takes the place of Isis, and then Horus is supposed to be coming out of her. That's a falsified version of a false story, anyways, of a myth, but it's a falsified version of who it is trying to take on their culture. Just like Alexander the Great did. He went to different places. He conquers them. He says, "This is Alexandria." You know how many Alexandrias there are worldwide? Right? And he goes somewhere and says, "This is Alexandria," and he puts this there. And people love that so much that guess what? You put an Alexandria right in Virginia, right next to Washington. Like they ain't playing no games. They're giving you their culture. They're giving you their religion. Everywhere you turn around, Greco-Roman. And they want you to be into the same animalistic rituals. They want you to be in the same one. You said Washington was sleeping with military wives. That too. Yeah, thanks, babe. I forgot about it. I didn't mention that. That too. Never forget that he was the commander in chief. Look at what British commander in chiefs did. They slept around with their other guys' wives or whatever, but it was kind of like, hey, use your wife as a bargaining chip. If she sleep with me, I got something for you later on. And they just let it go. They just let it go. Yeah, full of what? They just let it go. Yeah, romantic Roman antics. Yeah, that's all we're talking about. I've come from them to be come to be separated from me. Yeah, it is a sick culture. Sounds like he was a libertine. Yeah, he definitely was. I don't know if he would have ever admitted fully in public. Actually, that's probably a great homework assignment. I wonder if I can find somewhere where George Washington talks about being a libertine and if he admits that he is, because that's what he was. A libertine is supposed to be somebody who can't control, once again, no accountability. A libertine is supposed to be somebody he can't control himself. He's just so attracted to women. He's just going to be sexually attracted no matter what. But then again, see, it's this weird place. See, animalistic behavior gets you to this place of cognitive dissonance because he had to sleep with black women, but remember, black women were really women, but but you couldn't say they were animals because then you on some bestiality type stuff. So it's like, okay, they're less than animals, but then if they're less than animals, and it's bad to sleep with animals, why can you sleep with them? Well, then it's like, but because they're less than animals, it's really like you're not really having sex at all. So now, when you're somebody like Thomas Jefferson, and you got all them babies that are your slaves running around your place, it's like, oh, well, that ain't nothing. And his wife, who dies, and he was already having children before she died, by the way. But his wife, who dies, it's she's in a place where she has to try and live with cognitive dissonance. She's hurting, but she has to try and make this work because in her mind, well, I guess the system says that these are just They're nothing. So when he's having sex with them, he's really not having sex because how can you have sex with nothing? You see, you see the the excuse for animalistic behavior. That's why you have to make sure that you recognize at all times you are not an animal. They're gonna keep trying to tell you you're an animal. Yeah, Monticello. Yeah. Not too far. Well, I guess what, a couple of well, I've heard Monticello, hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. 3 hours maybe from DC, something like that. But it ain't that far from Mount Vernon. Mount Vernon, Monticello. I mean, remember the first 4 out of 5 presidents are Virginia slave owners. So you can go visit their places where they live to this day. Matter of fact, I don't know if it's Madison or Monroe. I think it's Madison. The black people who were owned by Madison as slaves, they have a territory that they live in that they own now, of their own. So you could actually go over to them and ask them questions like, what did your ancestors go through? And they know the stories because they pass them down generation to generation. So while somebody's telling you how this doesn't affect people, there's people still today that can tell you like, yeah, we went through this. This is what our people went through. This is what our particular family went through. Thanks for being part of the community, Sacred Soul. Um, Sacred Soul AJ, I believe it was. Amen. Come out of it yesterday. Let me see. Okay, so you've been in that area. You're from Petersburg. Yeah, a lot of people don't know. It's very twisted. But once again, it's animalistic behavior. Now you got to start asking yourself, why are they trying to teach you the animal, teach you you're the animal if you didn't exhibit the animalistic behavior? Uh-oh. See, now we got people didn't like what we were talking about before. Now we got to have a deeper conversation. Because why is it that you hear what I'm saying? Why is it that it's wrong for you, right, to say that you're not an animal, especially if you don't exhibit the animalistic behavior? What makes it bad? What makes it taboo for you to say that I'm not an animal? What makes it to where people will argue with you when you're saying, hey, animals are not on the same level as us, and people will argue with you to say, no, you got to understand that's like my child. That's my baby. No, it's not. That's not your baby. Did that child come from you? Now, somebody said, well, can you adopt a child? Yeah, I can adopt a human child, and that human child has more relevancy to me DNA wise, even if you want to go scientifically speaking. People just don't like to hear it. They're trying to get you to agree with animalistic behavior. You cannot do it. The second that we start doing what animals do is the second that we agree with somebody who is an animal. Wow, I wasn't even expecting to say that. Let me see if I can rewind it again and say it the same way. The second that we do what animals do, right, is I'm sorry. Yeah, the second that we do what animals do is the second that we become animals. The second that we do what animals do, here you go. So like, well, so then we can't be parents, blah, blah. No, look, if that's where you are and you're on that level, look, y'all bless you. We just agree to disagree. Hopefully you can join us on some other stuff and we can keep the main thing the main thing. But I am not going to sit up here and act like a black woman giving birth to a black child is on the level of a gorilla giving birth to a gorilla offspring. And that's what people try to do to us. That's what some black people are trying to do. Kabwa Kibwe, I forget his name used to be Booker T or Booker T, not Washington, but Booker T Coleman or something like that. And he's out there saying, hey, we can't comprehend who we are unless we comprehend that we come from, I think, the lowland apes or the lowland gorillas or the highland, I think the lowland gorillas or something. And it's like, so you're taking on somebody else's culture to try and make your way out. You're gonna have some issues. I'm not saying that you don't have a lot of things that you say that aren't great, but you're gonna have some issues with that, bro. Because that's not who you are. That's what somebody else wrote down in the book for you, and you believe what they told you. I'm sorry, Marion said, I am surprised that no one is trying to ban them from telling the truth about our past presidents. I mean, at this point, it's kind of hard to deny, you know. I think they want to, but it's kind of hard at this point to deny. When George Washington himself is quoted as having 2 presidents that he said are his favorite president before he became president, it's kind of hard to deny at this point. Thanks, babe. Yeah. The second we agree that we are, the second we do what animals do is the second we become animals. Most deaf. Hello, relaxed moon. How you doing? Southern View says biologically we are animals. However, we have the capacity of higher thinking and logic. No, we're not animals biologically. Like, watch this. First of all, we don't even know, and people who work in DNA will tell you that they don't even know really how more than 1% max. And that means if you don't know the percentage, then this is still a lie technically, but it's a theory that they say that they don't know any more than 1% of how DNA works. Number one. So we're gonna have to be careful with that to act like something that's a theory is fact, because that's purely theoretical. It can be based off some law. I would actually tell you that that theory can actually be a real theory because it's based off of natural law. And in order for something to be theoretical, it would have to be lawful, right? So there is some law to that. However, to say that, like for example, you're 50%. People will say you and a banana share 50% DNA or something like that. Are you, is a banana half of what you are?
Fruit fly shares 90%.
The fruit fly shares 90%. Is a fruit fly 90% of who you are? See, but then right. So, but then somebody says, so. By the way, this is very interesting to me. You know how when they say chimpanzees, they say chimpanzees and human beings share 99.99%, or some people say 99.7%, or some people say 97 point something percent of the same DNA. You know what's interesting about that is that it doesn't make sense because the X chromosome of a chimpanzee and of a woman is only something like 63% the same, and the Y chromosome of a chimpanzee and a human being are about 47% the same. So how do you get 63% and 47% and put that together and somehow say that 99.7%? See, that's when people believe that I just don't know what I'm talking about, or people think that we're just out here without any tangible evidence, or people think, it's like, I've done my research. We've done our research. We are not what people say we are. It seems like it because that's what people told you. And by the way, once again, even when we're talking about evolution, which version of evolution are we talking about? There's 6 types. People only want to talk about one or two. There's 6 types of evolution. All have to make sense in order for it to work, or else they don't work, period. And they all don't work. None of them work. The only one that comes close to working, really, it works, but it shouldn't be called evolution, is the 6th type, which is microevolution, which means that if a mom and a dad come together and they have sexual relations and they have a child, that child will come out and have slight variances from the mother and the father. Well, that's the way that childbirth works. But to say that apes or to chimpanzees, they have 99 point whatever percent, but then the X and the Y chromosome don't even come close to 97%. That's somebody lying to you about math. Like, that's simple math, right? Like, I'm not coming out against. I didn't even use the these and the lessons of the Bible, did I? Right? I didn't need to hoop or holler. I just simply told you mathematically it doesn't make sense that if an X chromosome only has 63%, if you had two X chromosomes come together, if they 100% came together and didn't lose anything, the most you could have would be 63% of that female child that would come out. If it was an XY chromosome that came together, I'm sorry, was 63, 47, somewhere in the middle. I'm just guessing, but let's say that'd be 53, 54%. If everything worked out perfect, then that male would only be 53, 54%. Mathematically speaking, they can't even come close to each other. They can't even come close. But you'll have Time magazine put a an offspring of an ape, of a chimpanzee, and then the offspring of a child, of a human being, a child, together in a magazine and tell you how close they are, and you'll believe it because they want you to take on animalistic behavior. And once you put on animalistic behavior and you see some chimpanzees out there and you see that male chimpanzees will fight for the right to be over the tribe, then you say, oh, that's okay for men to fight against each other for the right to be over the community. And if you see that, you know that um, that chimpanzee tribes will go and they'll destroy and even eat their own people, or eat their own. Sorry, see how I did that? See how messed up it is if you're not careful. So they'll eat their own. Then hey, if you would go out there and you fight and you eat your own, it's okay. And by the way, people say no, it's not. Well, no, like There are people who have gone out and fought recently in time. You can look the stuff up and eats people. We just talked about this N-word toes, and there's N-word heads people eat in Europe. Now they say they're just chocolate now and stuff like that, but where do you think that came from? We know that we have it documented that people would sell body parts of the people that were hung and then were burned. If you would have a picnic. Now, if you burn a body at a picnic and then start handing out body parts, what do you think that is? Right? If you go to the park and you see a grill out there and you start grilling something, what you about to do with what you put on the grill? I mean, let's just keep it simple. Somebody a long time ago, I just found a video. I'm going to post on TikTok eventually. It says, an older video I found that I had shared on Facebook a while ago, where it's some guy or telling me to keep it simple, stupid, because I was giving too much information. And but I was like people don't understand. Like, fine, let's keep it simple for the stupid, or for people that are trying to make us stupid. Let's keep it simple. Like, if I go out to a place that has a grill and I start cooking on it and we put out a blanket and everything, whatever's coming off the grill is probably what we're going to eat. But here you are seeing people burned and hung, right? And stuff like that. And them selling body parts. And see, we would just normally just say that's cannibalism, but we say, no, that's a picnic. That's why I don't go to picnics. That's why you'll never see an SOC picnic. You'll never catch me going to a picnic. I don't care if it's a family reunion picnic or not. You never, because all they did, the picnic was just where they picked an N-word. That's where that came from. Picking it. That's what it, pick an N-word. Animalistic behavior. Why would we keep on doing that? You said, which part of the world am I talking about? Once again, we can talk about the N-word toes. That's Brazil, so that's Portuguese. We can talk about the N-word heads. I mean, that's in Swiss, or what we call Switzerland. That's in Belgium as well. That's in England as well, right? We can talk about the hangings and sub-hangings and things like I'm talking about. That didn't just happen in the United States of America. That's Canadian as well. That's Mexican as well. Slightly Mexican, not really Mexican. That's Brazilian as well. That's Chilean as well. That's Argentinian as well. Like, that's Australian as well. The list goes on and on. I'm not one who's foolish enough to believe that racism means that racism only deals with white, black, or racism only deals with, nowadays it deals with more white than black because of colonization. But I'm also not foolish enough to believe that racism just stopped in America, or just stopped in South Carolina or North Carolina or in Boston or in Georgia or in Florida or in Alabama or in Texas, or that it stopped when somebody's told me it stopped in school, when I know for a fact that it's there. They literally this year have found 2 or 3 different camps, or 2 or 3 different plantations that people are still on to this day, telling me that it stopped a long time ago. But they still got plantations out here. They still got plantations out here. There's places I know that I better not stay too long because they're sundown towns. If I go somewhere, I look up sundown towns before I go. I make sure I do research on where I'm going, because if I'm gonna stay in a hotel or stay someplace or stay in somebody's house in a sundown town, I better make sure that my family and I know about it. So why? I think it's a cultural thing. I mean, they used to eat each other. You know that in and by the way, when I say they, I'm talking about specific tribes, right? The social construct makes it sound like I'm saying white people, because you know that there are people that do go by the same social construct that are black or whatever that did some of the same, and I would say it's just as wrong for them too, right? So I would call it out across the board. But for example, we know that Bloody Mary, who killed a whole bunch of people or whatever, a lot of people believe that Bloody Mary also used to go through a thing of trying to keep herself younger, where she would get the blood of young virgins and basically execute them, drink the blood, put the blood in their body, stuff like that. That's a queen. That's royalty. Now some people would say that they don't believe in all that, even though there's many accounts, but some people say that was just pure rumor and speculation, this and that or whatever. Okay, what about Vlad the Impaler? the original Dracula, who people still make movies about, even though they try to do a sensationalized version of it. How you doing, Irene and Shalom? Right? But you gotta comprehend, like this is a cultural thing, where Vlad the Impaler not only impaled people, but impaled people while he was eating. Sometimes it even says that he had some of their blood be given to him after they were killed to make sure he ate it in front of people, so that people were so afraid of him that they would never go against him. Right? That there's a real the story of Dracula based off of a real who is considered to be a national hero. Right? It literally is considered to be a national hero to this day because of the violence that he was willing to go through. Did it in the name of Christianity, though, even though it was more so in the name of revenge and him being off because of what they did to people and how they locked up their own cousins and family and stuff. He came out with a really warped sense of reality because of it. Right. So I ain't gonna hold you. I'm not gonna act like, oh, he's this guy that just is evil, this and that, or whatever. Like there's some stuff that happened to get him there, but that's what he did. Real talk. Thanks for being on 64.6. Thanks. So unfortunately, I live in one, but didn't know before moving here. Yeah, a lot of people don't know. So United talks about sundown towns, yeah, and they still got them. Hiding them where? I'm not even hiding. I'm not even talking about hidden. I'm talking about what's come out of the news. Just look up, plantations or slave plantations of 2022, and look up what's on the news cycle. There's a place not too far from where I'm going to be going through, maybe today, but there's a place not too far where I'm going to be going through where one of the plantations was found. It's not that hard to find. The same system. It's the same system that was there. Thank you, Mr. Carter, for being part of the community. Said Jamestown research also shows yeah, Jamestown. People would try to say the first, settlement in America. It's not, but or people who say we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. They were eating themselves, and the natives helped them, and then they killed the natives and ate some of them because they had just had to try and survive. They were actually digging up dead corpses and eating them because they didn't know how to plant on this land. They didn't know how to hunt. They didn't know how to plant what was here, and they ended up dying. They were dying. They were dying off. And the natives had to help them, and then the same natives that helped them, even though the natives didn't trust them, it's not like what we're taught about that Thanksgiving story. The natives didn't trust them. But once again, there's animalistic behavior. Now, here's something else that people don't want to talk about. If you go to a place to where there's lack of minerals, then you're going to have an issue, right? So sometimes we go to a place of being like, oh, you're racist, and that's it. But if somebody's eating things or is not getting proper minerals and nutrients, they'll start doing certain things. And if you look in certain, you're right. If you look in certain European nations and things of that nature, what you'll discover is that you'll discover that there's a lot of stuff missing that nutrients fast, like potassium and magnesium and things like that you would need that should be coming out of soil, right? Which means that you're planting things, but you're not getting certain things you should get in your body. And it causes you to do things. It causes you to even do things like there's really no such thing as being bipolar because everybody's bipolar. You have two different polarities. However, when we call it bipolar and stuff like that, that comes from lacking nutrients. So if you're bipolar, if you go back and forth, if you have cognitive dissonance, if you live in a system like that, and then are eating food that contributes to living in a system like that, what do you think is going to happen? You think it's going to be difficult for somebody to stay in a bipolar situation? You think it's going to be easier or harder for somebody if they're eating that way, if they're living that way, if they're governed by that way, if they're going away from the kingdom, right? If they're not trying to make sure that they do things that force them into stability. You said Vlad did it to keep the enemy out of his country? Sure. But Vlad was drinking blood, is my point. And he was impaling folk and eating while they were being impaled, while people were slowly falling down and being impaled. He was eating food and watching, even laughing. Now, if he was doing it to make sure he was the scariest dude in the block, I'm telling you, if that's the culture he comes from, where in order to be the scariest dude on the block, he had to do that, it meant that other people were doing things similar before that. And if you look up where Vlad came from and all that, they were doing that to him. So I'm not saying that he wasn't trying to defend his people. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying, though, is that we should look at that and say, if that's the culture, then we should see how that culture has continued. We should see that if Christopher Columbus came over And his culture was he came over to enslave Israelites. He knew he was coming for a land of Asherah. He knew he was coming for it. Told the queen. Queen says, land of Asherah. The queen knew who he was coming for. The Pope said, land of Asherah. Give me some slaves and give me their riches. And we'll claim once we get these riches that their riches belong to us. We're the real people of the Most High. They knew what they were doing. And Christopher Columbus came over there with a Hebrew interpreter or somebody that could speak Hebrew at least and speaks to the Taino people who spoke a very, very, very similar language to that and said, we already have stuff. And by the way, we're using the same guanine weapons that you guys use or that they use over there. They took some of the weapons back and then had them inspected and realized they were telling the truth. And Christopher Columbus, animalistic behavior, decides that he needs to start, having his men, they have needs, they're libertines. So they need to start having sex with the women, but not just the women, the little girls and stuff like that, to the place where the little girls are so messed up that they can't even have children afterwards. But I'm not gonna go too deep because I could be on Columbus and really gross some people out. I probably already have. Thank you for that bounty. Let's be real about this. That Columbus said, I don't want to waste money on shooting babies in the head. So he said, let's just use a hammer instead. I mean, how grotesque, how grueling is that? And what I'm telling you is there's a pattern of behavior, and that's really the real animalistic behavior. But they keep trying to get you to get to a place where you'll even defend it. It was just a different time. He didn't know any better. Actually, he got arrested when they found out the level it was. Now, really, he really got arrested because he was trying to play Spain and trying to play Portugal and trying to play Italy all at the same time to make his pocket fatter, right? Make his pockets fatter. But the reality is that they actually, when they came against him, they said that he had crimes against humanity, basically. That's why they locked him up, and then ultimately he dies imprisoned. But the reality is that they knew what was up. They knew what was better. They knew why they sent him over there. They only said that when they wanted to make it a point to keep all the territories, keep all the slaves, keep beating the people up, but say this is the reason why we are kicking Christopher Columbus out. Cognitive dissonance. If you're raised in a culture like that, that's animalistic behavior. Now you can come out of that culture. There's some things that my family has done that I've had to come out of. So you can come out of that culture. I'm not saying that once you're there, you can never be anything else, but you got to at least admit, let's at least tell the truth, right? Tell the truth, shame the devil, right? Let's at least tell the truth that there's some stuff that's in this culture that we need to admit is foul. It's flagrantly so, right? Oh yeah, I thought it was an alcoholic beverage. Yeah, ignorance is not bliss. Hmm. Oh, and by the way, thank you to those who are on the podcast. Looks like we're about to lose you guys in a couple minutes. So feel free to join us on Facebook, on YouTube, or on TikTok. We thank you all for being on with us. We appreciate you. Um, that girl Bibbs is, how do we separate from this behavior if we still reside in America? Well, first and foremost, you start separating in your mind. Number one, you don't have, and then number two, you start working on your sovereignty. That's a huge piece. I would say before those, you got to experience the kingdom that you're coming from, because you're in a republic now. The word republic just means kingdom. So, choose which kingdom you shall serve. However, a lot of people don't like to start there. I would always say that's ultimately the start. That being said, though, sovereignty. Do you have a life set up? Do you have, your finances set up? Do you have your business set up? Do you have your housing structure set up? Do you have your land set up? Are you setting yourself up as far as investing? Are you sowing into a community that's like yours, that's like minded? Do you have a place to go if stuff goes bad and everything falls apart? Do you have permission to be able to carry whatever weapons are necessary? Like, that's a process of getting there. Do you grow your own food? Do you have people you can trade food with if you like certain things, so you don't have to keep paying for it, but you can just trade seed, or somebody's already started growing something, so they can just send you what they've already started growing, and you can send them something in return. Like, those are things that are there, but you have to be willing to live that life. You said people actually get married on plantations. Why? Well, people got married on plantations because they didn't have a choice. Just like people get married on a plantation now. Marriage really is just sex, anyways. Sex is marriage, marriage is sex. So the reason why they didn't like the reason why people would jump the broom, it was their way of saying we can have sex with whoever they want. Remember, back then, you could only have sex depending on who they told you could have sex with, or they put you in a breeding place, or they just RAP, you, right? Till this day, right? If you get married, according to the state. You should really get married and get married under somebody that understands marital contracts, right? Because if I marry somebody, we're going to get you to sign the contract with your spouse and also give you a marriage constitution. And that way, if anything ever goes wrong legally, you take that contract to the court. And the contract actually is something more powerful than the Constitution itself. The Constitution has to support your contract, not the other way around. So, you know, but you know, we don't know these things, but you should make sure that you have your own marital contract. But if you go to the state, if you go to the government, you get married, then basically they get to say, okay, we're like, there's times when the sister is like, I don't really want to do child support like that or whatever. We already have an agreed amount, and then the state will come out and say, well, no, we don't agree with that. we want our cut. So whatever y'all agreed upon, it don't matter. We'll make it more or even sometimes less. But you're going to do what we say do. We're going to take this percentage. We're going to do this with the children. He can't see him unless it's blah, blah. You can't see him unless it's blah, blah. Like you're going through their government. But, you know, marriage is just sex. And you can have the right to say that you're married or having sex to whomever you want. Now, comprehend, you should be pre-qualified for marriage to make sure your marriage is going to last until death do you part, no matter which version of you're doing. But nevertheless, you know, marriage is a contract, or should have a contract with it, because marriage is sex, sex is marriage. That's really what's going on. But we've once again gone so far away from our culture that we think that sex is somebody else authorizing your marriage or somebody else authorizing your sex. That's what happens when you go to the court. And some people are so into lasciviousness and lustfulness that they just want to go ahead and, you know, be married whenever they want. They want 2 or 3 partners. They want 2 or 3 wives, 2 or 3 husbands a day. Those are extreme cases, of course, but I mean, it happens because we don't know. You said marriage equals third party corporate interest. If you go through the third party, you don't have to. Once again, you can sign your own contract. You know, if you feel like going through them, you can. We just don't know it. How you doing, Alan? Yeah, we are part of a networking community. Yes, we are. In the republic for which it stands. Not only in the culture, but also in the genes and nature. Well, once again, that's going to be culture. See, that's why they call you a cult. You know, like when you say, I feel this thing. Oh, you feel it? You don't have blah, blah. Well, yeah, in our culture, we feel it. Well, feelings don't mean that much. Facts over feelings, right? Like your feelings can't be factual in this culture. So they say facts over feelings. How you feel don't matter. And it doesn't equate. You know, there's a different mindset in our culture. The different mindset in our culture. Yeah, defensive wickedness is wicked. Can't serve 2 masters. Come out of it, right? But you're going to vote. And then you say, well, why are you voting? You know that so-and-so is doing this and this to your people anyway. Well, it's the lesser of 2 evils. Okay, so you want to forever keep signing up for the evil. We just don't think about it that way, but it is. Was Haiti where he went? Yeah, he went to, well, you know, Haiti and the Dominican, both the same place. But yeah, that's where he went. He also ended up going later on to Cuba, and I forget. I feel like I'm missing out somewhere else, but he went to multiple places over time. He said Vlad TV. Yeah, Vlad is some interesting stuff, man. Vlad is some interesting stuff to watch, because Vlad is somebody who likes to make a lot of money off of Black culture, but then he'll make it very clear, even though he's not even a practicing Jew, but you know, he'll make it very clear to become Jewish in a heartbeat. So I watch some of his stuff from time to time just to hear certain people that, even whether I admire them or not, I just want to hear their point of view. But yeah, he's definitely interesting. He said meds help with bipolar disorder. Eating correctly would help you with it as well. If you make sure that you got your, you know, because all they're doing when you're taking the medicine, you're taking herbs, but you have side effects that come with the herbs because the herbs have been modified. When they're modified, they can now be patented. Since they're patented, they can make more money off of it, right? But you can eat herbs or tinctures or different things to be able to help you with the same. And watch this, the same meds that you're taking for that, eventually they're going to cause something else to go short. Now you're going to take a med for that, and then that's how people get to a place where you're taking cocktails. Let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I'm catching up with all this. So, do I think it is the same for ADHD diagnosis? I don't remember exactly what I was talking about when you're saying, do I think it's the same? But I can say this: I have I was diagnosed with ADHD. And what I found is that I just look at things differently than other people do. So they said that basically I can't pay attention that well. That's not true at all. If I'm very introverted as well, right? So really, with introverts, what happens is this: is like if I feel like something's worthy of me talking about, or I feel like I have something to contribute that somebody else would find valuable, I'll do so. If not, I'm kind of cool just being in the corner by myself, watching something or listening to something or reading something by myself. Um, you know, so but they use and also I like to be able to look at multiple things. I like to watch something on the screen and maybe have something playing in my ear and maybe type something else out, but I found out that, like, I like that because I like music, for example. I like drums, four limbs moving at the same time. I like piano, three limbs, or maybe sometimes even four limbs being used at the same time. I like the organ, four limbs moving at the same time. I like bass guitar. I'm having the foot pedal and I got one hand. Sometimes I'm singing at the same time, right? So, I like the way my mind works. I like to do multiple things at a time. But what I had to learn, just like everybody else does, I had to learn how to hone my craft. I had to learn how to hone my thoughts. So now I know how to do multiple things and it not be a problem. Before it would have even been a problem, and that's why my mom and others were like, "Oh, you've got ADHD," and they tried me on medication. I was put on, experimental stuff. That's all it was experimental drugs. They admitted it to my mom and came to my psychiatrist, I believe, or if I did I have a psychiatrist? Probably a psychiatrist, and she gave me medicine. Um, and and I liked her a lot, by the way. But I was walking around like a zombie. My mom saw me on and said, "Nope, not this." I got into the military. Was having a couple of issues with focus again. Hadn't really learned how to do things, and basically they put me on Concerta. Concerta is just nothing but meth. Basically, they put me on meth. The very thing that if I was right, like it was so potent that whenever I took a urinalysis, they said, make sure you fill out on a piece of paper when you take the urinalysis, ask them for a piece of paper to give to. They would give me this piece of paper. I had to tell them that I'm going to pop positive because I'm basically like a meth head. I didn't write those words down, but that's what I had to tell them. It was like, hey, I'm on meth. So I'm working in the military. I'm firing weapons and everything, but I'm on meth, Somebody says, "How did that person have that episode? Why they had that mental lapse or whatever?" Check out the medication that brother or sister was on. I bet you that might have had something to do with it. Dirty little secret. Sister Deborah says the same. You're the same way with your introversion, yeah. So so there's a lot of stuff that was in there, but once again, they want us to be on some animalistic behavior, and they're going to act like me being introverted makes me like an animal or something. It's like, but then they turn you into an animal. They turn you something that can be controlled. They give you that pill so they can just once again they can hurt you. Go here, Kofi. Go here, Kofi. Go here. That's what they were doing. And my mom looked at me one day and was just like, "What's wrong?" And I don't know what I looked like, but I know that I couldn't really move. I was talking to her, but I couldn't move. I was just standing like a statue. And so that was it. That was the end of it. And here's the crazy part: is I had to be weaned off it. I was high as a child, but it's the same thing. But peak game, same thing they do to animals. You don't think that they give cows medication? So you think that some of the reasons why you guys get sick are just because, like, I don't think we recognize. A lot of times, you guys are getting sick because of the medication they give to the animals. You having issues with schizophrenia because they're giving stuff that's powerful enough to mess with the mind of a cow. And somebody says, "Well, their mind is small." No, 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 no. Understand, like the cow, the body weight. Think about how much body weight the cow has. Isn't a calf born? I think calf born like 400 pounds. So you're talking about a 2-ton animal that they got to give medication to, and then you eat the animal, or you drink the milk, or whatever it is. You still eating the animal, right? The milk is just the blood of the cow, right? The pus and all that other stuff too. But nevertheless, I won't get into that today, right? But that's what you're eating is everything that animal ate is what you eat. So if that cow was on medication, like they have to give cows medication sometimes just because of the simple fact that they have to have them on pain meds because they cut holes into the sides of some cows to make sure that they can put this little thing that stops the skin from coming back together. And there's a big hole that they put on there, and they keep it in there because they want to make sure that cows don't have too much stuff going on. Because cows actually, the way that we keep cows and stuff in, cows have a lot of gases and stuff that come out. Cows, if not careful, especially the way that they are fed, and mistreated, right, by human beings, they actually can blow up. So they actually have holes that they look inside the cows. They'll have a couple cows out of all the hundreds of cows they might have in a place where they can actually have somebody with a glove reach inside or just look inside the cow from time to time to be able to. And they say, of course, same thing they say, like they said about your people in Tuskegee and they said about your people in other places. It doesn't really hurt them. It doesn't. Animalistic behavior. It doesn't hurt the cow. The cow doesn't really feel anything. You're sticking your hand in the stomach, like what are you talking about? But the cow doesn't really feel anything. Okay, whatever. But those same people though will turn around and tell us, that cows or that pets and human beings are considered to be equal. The same person that tells you that that dog is their child is the same person that will take their child, so to speak, their dog, their pet, and get their testicles cut off. But that's your child, that's your baby, right? That's why you got to get away from being an animal. If that's what you do to your baby, I don't need you touching mine. I don't need you teaching mine. I don't need you loving mine. I don't need you marrying mine. I don't no, just if that's what y'all do, you keep that over there. Real talk. People don't want to talk about this for real, but like real talk. Like if that's what you do to your baby, first of all, if you think your baby is that is your baby, we got issues, right? Number one. It's weird. The person says, I don't see color. Now you can't even see species. Yeah, we got issues. We got issues popping up. I'm just saying, we got some problems going up. Animalistic behavior. They're trying to get you to agree with something that makes you greater than the animals, right? You name the animals. The word name means authorize. You authorize the animals to be what they are today. Why in the world would you want to take away from that authority? You said you're not talking about marriage on plantations, then you're talking about now. Why would one do this? Once again, people think that that's their only option. Whenever you have sex, sex is marriage, marriage is sex. That's ancient times before it became what it's become today, where people are into it. Sex is marriage, marriage is sex. That's an ancient principle. That's a principle that still exists. So if you're going to continue to have sex with whomever you want, just comprehend, even DNA wise, your DNA comes together, soul ties, all that stuff is there every time that you have marriage or have sex. Two becoming one. That's not just a biblical principle. That's an ancient principle across all cultures that they comprehend, right? The king or the queen sometimes even, because Queen Nzinga did the same thing. So we ain't gonna act like we didn't have queens that didn't do this either, right? But the royalty who was in charge, who would do this, people would usually look to the side, like kind of look, side eye, but be like, well, they're bringing kingdoms together, or well, they're spirits or deities or gods or neters or whatever. So okay, maybe they can do it, right? It's a belief system that says that they can have animalistic behavior and get away with it because there's some kind of deity, which is actually weird because the deity or the god or the whoever it is you're following, or the Elohim, etc., they should be the guide. Right, but once again, it's cognitive dissonance. See, we're dealing with animalistic behavior, but we're also dealing with cognitive dissonance simultaneously. it's a very interesting place. Then we don't have the nutrients to make sure that we're getting the selenium and the serotonin and the melatonin and different things that we need for our body to operate and our brain and our mind to fire correctly. So yeah, we're dealing with a lot of interesting stuff. But yeah, people don't know any better as far as marriage. And if you knew better, you would just write up a contract amongst yourselves. Even if you have gotten married by the state, just get a contract that's written up by you and your spouse. That's why, if you notice, he said, she said stuff gets actually listened to in a court of law a lot, because that's an express contract. You're contracted. You're speaking things to each other. So the judge might ask something you think is arbitrary, but it's because they're trying to see about how you deal with contract. So they'll say, oh, well, how did you deal with taking out the trash? And they'll see how your argument goes with taking out the trash. They want to see how you deal with express contracts. He said, yes, I see cats and dogs and strollers. Always throws me off. Yeah, I've seen it a little bit, but I've seen it enough and it's never really looked cool. You said your family, when you were a child, grew up, they had cows, chickens, pigs from when they were little. Okay. Said even the leash thing rubs you the wrong way. Yeah, I've never understood the whole child and the leash thing. And I mean, I've been able to successfully have my children just walk in the line. Like, We're going somewhere. We just had to walk in the line. Like, yo, you got to go to school. We're gonna be on the bus. We're gonna be on the train. Whatever. Like, you know, and each day a different child got to lead the line. Whatever. So all of them got to be in leadership position. No one was better than the other. Like, I've never understood how people can't have their child stand next to them or hold their hand, bare minimum. Yeah, you said they give cows and other animals antibiotics all the time. Yep. They give them steroids, you know. And by the way, your children are eating the cow, right? So if the cow has steroids and then your child eats the cow, what do you think that that's a reason that maybe your child has like unusual growth or has issues with their hearts that grow to be too big? I mean, you're eating. First of all, let's even think about this: the fact that your child continues to drink cow's milk. We're the only beings that get past adulthood and keep trying to drink milk, which is not based off of anything that's natural. It's based off of a company or companies that wanted to make sure they continued to make money. And they had all this milk. And they were like, well, we need adults to drink milk. If we're going to make as much, we're going to have to throw away all this milk. And so they literally wrote it into a fake pyramid, food pyramid, and told you that dairy was something that was necessary. Turned it into cheese, turned it into yogurts, turned it into all these different things, and told you need it. Right? And so, like, your children are drinking milk. Now, what is milk designed to do? Like, if you're drinking a cow's milk, because you're thinking about all the stuff that they lied to and told you that. I mean, I'm not saying there's no truth to what they say at all. Every lie that's of any value has to have the truth in it, right? But when I'm saying when they tell you about milk, they never told you about what milk's really for. They told you that you need milk for vitamin D. Vitamin D, like you can get vitamin D by going in the sun. You don't need milk for vitamin D. And you can get it quicker from the sun and more of it than you would from getting it from drinking milk all day, right? But they said, well, you need vitamin D. Okay, they said it's going to help you to have strong bones because of calcium. Well, just eat stuff with calcium or have a calcium pill, you know, and eat it and have as many pills according to whatever your body weight is. Right? They said you needed it for strong health and strong this and strong that. You know what milk does for a cow? Because you're drinking a cow's milk. So this is what milk does for a cow's calf. It takes a 400-pound animal and helps it on its way to launching into an animal that it will eventually become 1 to 2 tons. That's what it's designed to do. Okay. So if your child is drinking a bunch of milk, that's also going to have hormones. It's also going to have steroids. It's also going to have all types of stimulants sometimes. It's going to have painkillers. But then on top of that, it causes a cow to grow. Well, would that not explain how you got all these children having unusual growth in certain areas and their heart is growing to be too big, or they have a heart that grows, it's really big, but they get a hole in it and large hearts and stuff like that, people that play sports, and they have to start talking to the people who play sports, and telling them up, you can't play anymore. You can't play any longer because you had this issue, you had that issue with your heart. Like these are things that we can look at and just say it makes perfect sense. But because we're into being like animals, we just eat like animals eat, and whatever they feed animals at the farm, they feed you at the stove. You go to hey, they feed animals processed feed. They feed you processed food. What's the difference? The only difference between processed food and processed feed is the letter E. They're giving you the same thing, and we eat it up. To some places, they make the restaurants now in some places look like troughs that animals eat out of, and we just don't see it. We don't think about it. I'm telling you, think about. I want like look up what the troughs and stuff look like for cows and pigs and places like that, and chickens and stuff like that. They have it's the same. It's the same thing. You call what we call line. You call it line when you go to a restaurant and it's you work on the line instead of me working in the kitchen. I work on the line, and the line is the kitchen. And so you come through, and they have you come through the door. But this is what they do with chickens and cows. I'm telling you, like they have you come through a door. But I studied this, it blew my mind because I used to work in this field, right? So multiple times, multiple gigs I've had over my life, I've worked in that field, and like you have people come through a door. You make sure they go in a certain manner. You make sure that they know the rules and stuff and don't get too close, and make sure that you right and you stand in line, and then you move up and you move up. You're waiting for your turn, right? And then basically you only have but so many options. I'm really just giving you sugar. I'm giving you sugar, fat, and salt, right? Or maybe we'll give you vegetables. Some people have enough sense to get some vegetables with this stuff. But I'm basically just offering you sugar, salt, and fat. And then I move you through the line, and then you wait there. And if I'm in a really good place where we do things really well, within 2 minutes to 4 minutes, you'll already have really 2 minutes is the goal of every fast food place. I know they don't work like that, but it's supposed to be 2 minutes is the goal of you can from when you make your order and when you finish paying me to by the time you finish paying me, it should only be about 45 seconds left for me to be able to hand you your food. Which, by the way, food that is made that quickly is obviously not made that quickly, correct? Like they had to freeze things. They had to. These things had to be made. They had to be shipped. Right? These are not things that are being made. So we think it's fast food, but it's stuff that's been made over a long, long, long period of time, and some of it made to last for a long period of time, an unnatural period of time. But it's animalistic behavior. They have a son. They believe that you will do whatever they tell you to do because you're used to somebody saying do it and you do it. You go to school and you operate. Well, how do you operate in school? You operate by the sound of a bell. Do animals wear bells? I'm trying to tell you, like they have this thing down to a science. We think that we're on some human being type stuff. Like your child, when they go to school, I know what it. I still, if I were to go to school, and I haven't been inside of a school in a really long time, but if I were to go inside of a school, and if I were to hear a bell ring, you know what my first response probably would be? Would probably be to figure out where do I need to go next. Even though I don't have a class, I would probably be trying to figure out where do I need to go because it's that ingrained in us. Animalistic behavior. We don't think that is animalistic behavior, but the reality is that it is animalistic behavior. The reality is that it is animalistic behavior. They have us in a situation to where we operate the way animals do. They've taught you you're an animal, and this is why sovereignty is going to become harder for many people, is because that you have more in common with the animal as far as somebody tells you what to do, so you do it. That's really what the public is versus the private. The private says that I have to be accountable for the things that I do. The public says just feed me. Just feed me. I'll take care of it. Just feed me and I'll stick around. You go to your job. Why do you go to your job? You don't go to your job trying to figure out land and stuff like that or trying to figure out sovereignty. You go to your job because you're like, hey, they feed me. They pay the bills. And we even look at people's success based off of only that. I'm not saying brothers shouldn't make sure that we are operating and making sure that our family feels secure financially. But I'm telling you, if all you see in the brother is that he pays the bills, if that's the number one thing you're looking for, then that's animalistic behavior. What about vision for your family? What about what he's going to teach? Sister, can your husband teach you anything? He got great credit. Okay. I mean, I'm not saying that's nothing, but I'm saying, is that all? Like brothers, well, the shape of her hips, she looked great and everything. That's animalistic behavior. You can't see anything else. At some point, look, you love her, all that stuff, but at some point, she's not going to look like she looked when she was 18. And she should become more beautiful in your eyes because you're not only looking at her through the lens of an animalistic behavior. How much sex can I have? But some brothers, that's all they see. How much sex can I have? And then that's why you get these brothers that turn 40 in what they call midlife crisis, and now they out here running looking for something else because they can't see that. And then they get upset, try to find a way to get back to the woman that they left, and get mad at her because she won't take him back because he decided to leave her because she didn't give him 20, but she gave him 80. Sometimes she gave him she gave him 95, but he wanted 5, and that 5% was just how somebody looked. It doesn't make sense. But they taught you to live like an animal. They taught you to live like an animal. Yeah, they bleach. They have to do stuff to bleach the milk. They cook the milk as well. Now, they say they only cook it for 3 seconds, but they still cook the milk, which means they cook the pus. They cook the blood. Right? That's what you're drinking. When you're drinking milk, you're drinking blood. Right? The only blood biblically that you and I are allowed to drink is the blood from our mother, and that's the milk from our mother. That's it. Dairy is unnecessary. But we will literally get off of our mother's milk and then say, "I need another animal." See, you've been taught to be an animal. My mother's an animal that I drink from. Now I need to go to another animal to drink from. Or your mother wanting you to just go ahead and be weaned off her will say, "Okay, we'll take him or her from being on me and on my breast, and I'll basically, in essence, put him on the cow's breast." I mean, that's really the transition. That's really what's going on. That's really what's going on. Is where that's the conversation that we're having. That's the mindset. You said where you are, they allow people to bring their dogs to the dinner table and you leave. Yeah, you know, because they look at them as being the same. Brazilian nuts are rich in selenium. Yeah. You said, what's my perspective on vitamins? I don't know if I have a perspective on vitamins. I mean, vitamins are vital minerals. I don't know what you're saying as far as which vitamins should you take or what company should you get vitamins through or which vitamins are actually going to be 100% natural. Those are things that you could just read up on, but I don't know if I have a perspective on vital minerals or vitamins. Thank you, Sister Betty. Sister Betty said y'all should take these classes that Minister Myers or the Honorable Myers teaching. Which superfoods do you suggest? I mean, one of the easiest ones is just plant some turnips and then just, before they get a chance to turn into turnips, when they come up, eat turnip greens. I've talked about this before. We actually had an old YouTube channel. Somebody, they took that down. But on an old YouTube channel, we actually were showing people, grow. I had like some Dixie cups, bought some Dixie cups. We put holes in the side, multiple holes in the side on multiple places. And then we put a hole in the bottom. And we basically kept them outside. We put turnips in them, turnip seed or whatever, and they were power greens as they came up. And I literally was just, I had like 12 cups. So basically, on the first day, I'd eat the first group, and then the second day, I'd snatch up I made sure you had to be careful that you don't snatch out the root, but I snatch up I'd like hold the plant and then snatch up one, and then I'd eat those, and I pop those like I pop like people pop pills. That'd be the first thing that I eat, or I just put it on top of whatever I was eating. But yeah, and I had that, all day, every day, each day. And by the time I got around to the first cup again, basically they would all be growing right back for me to be able to, snatch it up and eat again. You said, yeah, okay. But yeah, so they're just people want you to exhibit animalistic behavior. You got to be careful. You said you just planted greens yesterday in your garden. That's great. Yeah. Where I'm at, I'm not sure. I'm hoping now. I keep thinking it's the last frost, and I'm glad I haven't really planted much. Well, I think my wife started planting some stuff in one of the properties that we grow some stuff at. But I haven't planted anything yet because every time I think it's going to be the last frost, it looks like it ends up like snowing again. It's been crazy. Or powdered milk, yeah, that's dangerous. But you might if you do powdered milk, you might as well be doing formula. Formula and powdered milk is one of the most demonic things to ever hit that the beast has ever given you. Real talk. Formula and powdered milk. One of the craziest things to ever get. To take a child and not give them, something that they need to make sure that they are going to be more in tune with love and with their mother and with nature and things of that nature, and to just give them formula. Like I comprehend if the mother can't provide milk, but sometimes they act like you can't provide milk because you're still trying to get the colostrum and everything to come out, and then it's taking you a while. Sisters, do not give up on breastfeeding your children. It's gonna be the greatest thing you could do for them. One of the greatest things. Can't see beyond superficial. Oh, of course, Sister Mary. Glad to have you on. Thanks for being part of the community, Mrs. Johnson. Till we going in. You said truth hurt though. Thank you, Sister Taylor. Appreciate that. Sister Salah, let's pause and think about it. Yeah, you're in your work right now. I'm on. Does that just feed you sad? Yeah, it's true. No, you said you can still hear that bell ring. Mm-hmm. Fresh and natural is not what it used to be. Most definitely. Hence the term treated like cattle. Yep. Or chattel slavery. Cattle slavery. And you're allowed to still be treated as a chattel slave as long as you're arrested. That's how that works. It's in the law. You said, yep, only species after being, yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you haven't opened it, you're returning it. Everything you're saying is true, King. Please try to wake him up. Much respect for a great word. Thank you. Traditions. Said the 1% want full control over the weather by next year. That's their goal. Yeah, I would be more concerned about the control over the land, and they're raising the prices on land too, which is why it's great that we're making sure we get this land going now, and we have some of the ideas and stuff to make sure that we can prosper and grow because a lot of people are messing with a lot of stuff. And once again, that's how you get your stuff together. See, like they're making it as difficult as possible to get land now. If you're not gonna work on your sovereignty, you're gonna have a hard time because if you're not gonna work on making sure that you don't have to for example, like we say, sovereignty is not just the paperwork. You said for you, no vitamins, only herbs. Amen. Right? Because the herbs have the vital minerals. Like really, when we're talking about vitamins, all we're talking about is vital minerals. So, you know, if you can eat it, that's great. If you can find 100% vital minerals in something else, then that's great as well. Just make sure that you know what the mix is, because certain things shouldn't be mixed, just like certain medicine shouldn't be mixed. Oh, oh. Instead of looking up growing different info on growing. Hmm. You said, what about soda? Is it bad? Yeah, overall, soda is going to be bad. Just the bubbles in and of itself. I used to think that carbonated soda, because they used to say it came from a spring and everything, and so, some springs actually bubble up. So I used to be foolish enough to actually think that it was bubbles from the springs. But carbonated soda can be great from time to time, or carbonated anything. You don't have to have carbonated soda. You probably would get your fix off carbonated water, but eventually you want to come off the carbonated stuff. But sugar in general, you're dealing with a dye, right? So you're dealing with food coloring. That's going to be real bad for you. Different colors actually do different things to you as well, but in general is going to be bad. So the soda's going to have food coloring. If it's clear, you're still going to be nation, which actually starts messing with some of the stuff, including your digestion and heartburn, or stomach burn, acid burn and stuff, because your body will actually start saying, I don't need the acid I normally produce. So like acid burn is actually like a lot of people think when you have the burning sensation, they'll usually think that you're having too much acid, but a lot of times it could be too little acid, where people have drank so much soda or so much things that are carbonated that your body actually doesn't produce carbon anymore. So when you get away from soda, or you don't have as much soda, all of a sudden your body, you hurt, you double over, because your body that normally would say, hey, like, we make this ourselves, now it doesn't feel it needs to make it. So the process, a lot of times they try to give you medicine and stuff. If you're in that situation, you probably need to just take the pain, just drink a lot of water, and allow your body to start saying, "Oh, well, if I don't want to be in pain," allow your brain and everything to come into agreement and say, "We need to start making carb. We need to start making, acid again." But a lot of times when people have stomach acid issues or whatever, it's not usually because you have too much. It's usually because you have too little. But soda causes a lot of different issues. Soda, even diet sodas are worse than regular sodas, especially when you start getting the aspartame and different things that they use as artificial sweeteners, because your body can't receive the artificial sweetener. So the artificial sweeteners just sit there for a while, because your brain will tell the body, hey, something sweet is coming in. It seems like it's sugar. So the brain will say, even though the taste buds will say, well, it doesn't taste right, but the brain will say to the taste buds, well, don't worry about it, and don't worry esophagus, don't worry about it stomach, we're going to have this thing come down anyways, because it seems like it's sugar. It tricks the body, right? It tricks the brain. But then the cells that show up to be able to start breaking apart The sugar, they show up and they say, this isn't sugar. And so it turns basically and just leaves it alone. And there it is sitting in your stomach, right? Rather than, or not sitting in your stomach, but sitting where it going around your body, but it just sits in certain places and pockets. And now you start having issues, you know. So soda is definitely not the greatest of things to drink. It definitely is not. Soda pop is a bunch of chemicals and half sugars. Yeah. Even seltzer water depletes our minerals. Yeah. Now, if you need carbonation or seltzer water, something like that from time to time, tonic water from time to time, because you need specific healing and it's got to be something real quick, then you can do that, but don't make it an effort to make that a normalized thing, right? Like, if somebody, like, if somebody's having an issue with gas and it's getting to a place where it's real bad and and like something in your body is like about to literally like rip or have like not an explosion where you're gonna explode, but like a some kind of explosion inside is gonna mess you up. If I see some ginger ale or I see some Coke or something somewhere, and I know those things will really cause you to erupt and burp or even pass gas if necessary, I'm gonna make sure I give it to you. But it doesn't mean, right? And by the way, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a financial advisor. I got to say those things publicly on all these lives to make sure people don't try to say he's out here giving this stuff. It's like, nope, you can look at the whole recording and you'll see that I made a point to say that I'm not a financial advisor or I'm not a doctor, blah, blah. But I'm just telling you what is. I'm just giving you contextual facts. You said me to learn as I go. I'll check, be able to grow on food soon. The mineral water, does it add minerals? Yeah, you got to be careful with what people are saying. By the way, if you drink water too, you got to be careful when people are like, "We're going to give you water. It's going to be so pure and clean and everything like that." If you were drinking water back in the day, yeah, fasting helps to recalibrate the body as well. If you were drinking mineral water from back in the day, hear what I'm telling you, or not mineral water, but water, you would drink water from a lake. You would be able to drink water from a river, right? You would drink water from the rain. You would drink water, in a pond, depending on what kind of pond it was, right? But you'd be able to drink water. Why would you be able to drink water? You'd be able to drink water because water is naturally supposed to have other things in it. So when you drink the water, that's where the electrolytes came from. The electrolytes are just basically things that grow. So a lot of you guys will drink water and will think, I need to drink water that has nothing in it. Matter of fact, you got to be careful. Some people drink, I'm forgetting what type of water it's called. Uh, ah, like people will actually use it if they're doing I forget what it is. Distilled water. Some people even drink distilled water. There's cases of people who have died not knowing what distilled water is and have died because they drank distilled water, like a gallon of it a day for like 4 or 5 days in a row, thought they were doing something well and they died. Because distilled water, it has nothing in it. It's like supposedly the ultimate purified water, but it's not really. But when it's pure, the water just by itself, it actually has to gather things to make it complete. Anything that you eat or drink, right? It wants to make sure it becomes complete. Like if you eat a potato, right? If you eat a potato, the potato is water. So the potato is going to try and grasp water from you, right? Because the potato is just basically like this dry thing or whatever, but it's really water. It wants to reconnect with water and absorb it. So you eat the potato. It's going to absorb things. That's like if people that drink beer, what do? You eat pretzels or you eat some kind of bread with it. Why? Because you're trying to get the the alcohol to be absorbed and not just be running free, right? It's trying to get anything from liquid. Well, if you drink distilled water says, I need something. I'm just straight water out here. I'm supposed to be in connection with other things. So it starts pulling from anything and everything in your body. And so you actually, by drinking something so pure, you're actually killing yourself because you think pure means that it's supposed to be untouched. It's a cultural difference, right? But even in all this animalistic behavior, once again, it's interesting how there's cognitive dissonance where animals actually, do better than we as human beings do. Animals comprehend I need to get water with minerals in it, with salt. Matter of fact, an elephant will put its trunk in the bottom of the water and will shoot out air and will sift all the water that's around, right? To get the water to move into a connection with all the minerals and nutrients and stuff. And then it will drink the water because it wants the nutrients. So instead of getting Gatorade, that's going to have a whole bunch of extra stuff in it and sugars and food coloring and all the stuff that's going to kill you, instead of doing that with Gatorade, All you need to do is say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go and I'm going to get some, I'm going to get some water. I'll put some lemon or some lime or something in it. I'll put a little bit of salt in it. Yes, salt. Somebody would think, oh, salt water is bad for you. Well, yes, if you're dealing with salt water from the ocean, there's a different kind of salt water, right? But if you just put some salt and some water, not a bunch, but put like a pinch of salt in your water, right? The salt actually is going to help your body to keep the water inside of it. Right. So have some salt, have a little bit of lemon and lime, something like that. Drink it up. Guess what you've just done? You just created the most natural version and the original version of Gatorade that there ever was. Yeah, you said, why do we drink things that our body rejects? We drink things that our body rejects because somebody told us, that that's what you're supposed to do. Then we end up, hurting real bad. You said, yeah, even animals prefer to drink the natural mineralized water instead of distilled. Yeah, most definitely. If you put some distilled water in front of your cat and then put some regular water in front of your cat, the cat might even try to drink the distilled water, but it will see the difference and it will never touch the distilled water. It will recognize this, right, dead water, distilled water, like water that's even though the one it would have salt in it too, but like water that's in that Red Sea. That's why they tell you to have lemons with your water. Lemons are electrolytes. Electrolytes just mean anything that's helping you with your electric diet. That's an electrolyte. Your body is an electric place. Your body sends electric signals. Drink something that helps it to send electric signals. When you hydrate yourself, right? It's like when you have you have a hydroponics or something like that, or you have you have a dam. You have Hoover Dam. Hoover Dam is using water to be able to cause electricity, right? You're doing the same type of thing. Everything that they're doing that they tell you is science, this and that, or whatever, it starts with your body. And we have to come out of a place to where we keep looking for everybody else, and we're so into animalistic behavior that we don't recognize that everything starts with us. Yeah, push everything that's wrong and bad for us. Now medicine, money, get the dollar bill, y'all, most definitely. Thanks for being part of the community, Gary. So these are things we have to talk about. They have you in such animalistic mindsets, right? Even animals will fast sometimes. If an animal's sick, they'll be like, "Oh, you know how an animal's sick, and you need to take them into the vet. It's because they're not eating." No, if the animal's not eating, it's because that there's something that they know something's going on with their body, and if they eat right now, it's going to compound the problem. So they got enough sense to stop eating. The animal's not just giving up to die. If the animal realizes it's not going to make it, then okay, it'll go ahead and say it's time to die. But the animal has enough sense to go, man. You know what? Like something crazy is going on. I need to not eat right now. So you take it to the doctor and you say, "Doctor, the animal won't eat. The animal won't eat." Your body does the same. A lot of people get on stuff and they start getting to a place where they won't eat, and so take them to the doctor, and doctor said it's a natural thing in your body. I'm not saying it can't happen because you're depressed or something. It is a natural thing, however, in your body for your body to say, "Wait a minute, something's not right. I'm depressed. I'm distressed. I'm going through stress. Something's not happening. Something's getting me away from the natural self." Okay, you know what? We got to make sure that we make this thing happen correctly. Like, let's go ahead and get ourselves back on track. And so the body just shuts down and says, "We're not going to eat." It's your body's trying to protect you from the depression. The body's doing the only thing it can. I've told y'all this before, right? My wife teaches on this as well. You cannot, if your body really can't do multiple things. If your body's stressed out, then your body's not going to heal. If your body's stressed out, it's not really going to try to give birth to any babies. If your body's stressed out, it's not really going to try to make sure that it's building up, the cell wall and the cell membrane. If your body's stressed out, it's not really going to digest food correctly. If your body's stressed out, it's going to do weird things to try and heal itself from the stress. So if you're stressed and you're dealing with stuff that's like a gut issue, then you're going to have some gut health problems. If you're dealing with some things that have to deal with like love or things that cause you to bear fruit or things of that nature, then your body's going to start, having cysts and things and season up, or things that are going to happen in brothers in other ways, right? If your body's messed, like your body's stressed out, it's not going to do everything at the same time. It can only do one or the other. It's got to come out of stress before it can go ahead and deal with disease. If your body's stressed, it's not dealing with disease. How you doing, Mr. Tracy? Said, "Oh, don't use to water plants distilled." Not that often. Like if you use distilled water for yourself and therefore for a plant, because plants and you are both alive, or for animals even, if you try to do that to them, use it for a place of cleansing only, right? And a lot of people try to cleanse all day, every day, which causes sickness as well. Some people say, I'm on this healthy diet because, and I've been sick and I've been going through, but I can't. Well, if you're always eating or drinking something that cleanses, then you're going to have a problem, right? So don't always eat stuff. Some people are like, I eat stuff all day, every day, and I can't wait to go number two or something like that every day. And it's like, don't try to cleanse out everything in your system, because you're cleansing out literally everything in your system. Your body doesn't say, okay, I'm going to go cleanse, so I'm going to get rid of only the bad bacteria. It has to flush the great bacteria as well. You know, your body doesn't say, oh, okay, I'm cleansing, so I'm only going to get rid of, the cells that the cells that I don't need. It's going to get rid of the cells it needs to. Now, if you're fasting, it will only eat on the things that are not necessary. Fasting is different from cleansing. Fasting is cleansing, but not all cleansing is fasting, if you get what I'm saying, right? And cleansing, if you eat something, you're trying to flush your system, everything's coming out, right? If you're trying to, forgive me for being crass or crude or using a word that might be disgusting to you, but if you're looking for something that's going to be diuretic, right? Right. And diarrhea is not a bad thing. Diarrhea means you're cleaning out your system. So if you have diarrhea, it's actually usually a great sign, like, oh, okay, something's going on and my body's getting rid of it. And it's a sign I probably need more vitamin C. I need to hydrate more, certain things like that. The diarrhea will be a lot less. But if you're cleansing and you're trying to get diarrhea to happen, or cleansing, you're trying to sweat out things, right? Because sweating and coming through there, it's all waste being removed. Like if you have pimples and stuff like that, or things like that, it's waste trying to get out. I know people think that that's disgusting, but it is what it is. Like I'm trying to tell you, your body's trying to heal. It's trying to cleanse itself, right? So if you do distilled water, you better only do that for a season, like a small season. Because if you do it too long, it could kill you. Same thing with your plants. You do it too long, your plants might be able to resolve some of that stuff a little different than you will, but it's never going to be able to grow correctly. You said that's your issue. You think your the bacteria you need is low. Yeah, and by the way, and so if I wouldn't even say do this to yogurt, but like when people are into kombucha or different things like that, all they're doing is taking stuff and making sure that they, basically make wine. That's all kombucha and some of that stuff is wine. And they're giving it to you before it gets to a place to where it would make you drunk per se, or they do different things to even keep it from going there. But it's just fermented stuff. So you could take your you could take a whole thing of stuff that you buy. You want to buy all this expensive stuff and do that or whatever. Buy a couple of bags of grapes with seeds, not seedless, but with seeds in them, or some cherries, or if you want to cut up. I mean, I guess you could do it with peaches and stuff. I guess it's hard to put it in, but put it in a big glass. Maybe buy like a pickle jar or something, and put the stuff in the glass and put some water in and stuff like that, and let it ferment, right? And then after it's fermented or whatever, drink the result. Those are things that actually will give you a lot of stuff, help you with your gut health. You don't have to have the milk yogurt. There's other yogurts apparently, but you want to make sure that you're getting, um, you know, a certain amount of stuff that's going to help you with your gut health out of it. And the yogurt, as much as what they say that they help with those things, they really don't help unless you eat a whole lot to the point to where now you're having calorie issues. And by the way, you don't necessarily need to be eating, as we discussed, eating and drinking milk like that. Amen. Amen loves you. And just let us know, let my wife know. She can probably help you on your journey with that. Um, we're doing well, Mr. Tracy. Thanks for asking. He said as you get older, certain foods you eat are rejected. Mm. And and that's digestion issues. Also, too, it depends on what the food is, what kind of food. Your body might be rejecting it just now because your body knows we don't need to digest this. you know? So there's a lot of different things that go on with those things. Yeah, always buy food with seed. Yep. Anything that's seedless is a GMO, or is GMO rather. So I cannot put weighed one that I want to be healthy. I can only eat certain things, no fresh fruits. Well, that's the thing. Like when people talk about allergies and stuff like that, or allergic reactions, or things like that, that's because you're having digestion issues. That's all allergic reactions are. Something in your body can't digest something. So we would just have to figure out, well, what's causing it, and where is the cause, why is the cause, and then start doing things to try and reintroduce it to your system. Right, to keep it away from your system still keeps you away from the nutrients that thing would cause and provide. So, we got to that's really what you should try to figure out more. So it's not what you're allergic. Well, you need to know what you're allergic to. However, the more important piece is what's causing the issue with your digestion. Sauerkraut can be great for the gut. Yeah. Well, you can heal everything. First of all healing, there's a ancient, proverb from the motherland. All healing starts in the stomach. If you really want to heal, it starts in the stomach. Um, it depends on what you're dealing with. You're talking about gut health, and depends on what in gut health you're talking about. But really, like, I can tell you this, and I'm not even the expert. If my wife was here, I'd have her speak on this because she's the expert. That's what she does. That's what her business is about, is healing people naturally. Um, However, what I can tell you easily is, if you're dealing with gut health issues, make sure you're staying away from anything that's too salty, too greasy, and too sugary right off the bat. Because if you have instinct or feel instincts, guts, like, people think that they only feel physically with the mind, or you think that feelings only come from the mind or the brain. So you'd be like, I feel a certain way. You think that's always in here, but you'll say stuff like, I feel it in my gut. I don't know how to explain it. I just feel it, right? I have a gut feeling. You're saying that something's going on in this area, right? The mesh that holds in the intestines and everything in this area. You're saying that there's an issue going on with how you feel. And usually, people might be feeling a certain way. It can be intuitive, it can be spiritual. Sometimes, though, it can be something as far as you not feeling loved, or correctly, or things like that. You don't feel the friendship. You feel like you're by yourself, and so that's why you start going to the salty, to the greasy, to the sugary. And so, those are things that you want to make sure that you kind of steer away from as far as gut health. Then after that, really, it's just kind of, not only having the things that are going to help, like we were talking about, that they try to talk about yogurt and things, but, kombucha or some things like that. But also, at that point, blood flow is going to help. So, anything that's really red, the color red almost, you could eat it, or drink it for that matter, natural, right? Anything that is, you can start dealing with eating things as far as in the stomach that are going to help you, like with oxygen, because oxygen is going to help with the whole body. Those are things that are there. It depends on what's going on with the gut health, right? Like, if you're just saying my gut is bad in general, then there's things we can talk about in general. If there's specifics, then we'd have to look at that. And I might not be qualified to talk about the specifics on here. Jane says, I only have one intestine, and so I'm limited. Okay. That could be part of it too. Yeah. If there's some removal of stuff or things like that. Just since the calf doesn't need the milk from its mother, then why do I? Yeah, well, the calf drinks the milk from its mother, right? But then the calf gives it up. So after a while, why am I drinking it? You say you take black seed oil every day and make black seed tea. That helps. Hmm. Yeah. So, but we want to come out once again. Come out of that. How do you heal acne? It depends. If you're a woman, a lot of women have acne. A lot of Black sisters, a lot of women in general have acne, into adulthood, or if it goes away, it comes back, and it's very aggressive when it comes. A lot of times, it has to do with the fact that, of what's going on with your period. A lot of women are having periods that are way too long. And the reason you're having those periods that are way too long is because of progesterone issues, not testosterone or estrogen levels. It's actually progesterone levels. So, and sometimes it's because of the pad, the type of pad or tampon you use with all the plastic in there. Not your vaginal area is not able to breathe correctly, things of that nature. So, there's a lot of things, but you want to eat things that are going to cause your body to have balance. You're a lot of times bleeding too much, and you're having a lot of issues going on down there that's causing your body to try and give waste, and so sometimes that can be the problem. But acne, once again, usually is just going to be waste. Your waste is trying to escape. We only think about waste coming through, our urethra, so to speak, and our anus, right? through the rectum, but we don't think about waste coming through the skin. So unless it's a scar obviously is coming from something different. But if you have a pimple or something popping up, you're having a waste issue. You're having a digestion issue, and your body's trying to get rid of it, or you're having an issue to where you're digesting stuff that's not great for yourself, anyways, and your body's trying to get rid of it. And it's got to get rid of it even before. Hey, Shalom, how you doing? Grand Rising, Buckle Tough. So you're having an issue where you're pushing it somewhere else. Right, that's what your body's dealing with. Right, that's what your body's really dealing with. Fermented foods are great too. Yep. What's my wife's information? Once again, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A-N-D, but the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. Um, and you can also just look up through us, and I can give you her information. If you're on the podcast, or if you're on YouTube, or if you're on Facebook, you can just look at the description box and get in contact with us. If you're on TikTok, you can literally just look in where it just says bio for more information, or just look where it says website, click on the website where it says website, that's our link tree information, and then click on the link tree, and you'll be able to go to multiple places to be able to find us. That being said, though, we're going to go ahead and get ready to take our leave. We are over time. Thank you so much. Yeah, it can be the blood defecating through the skin. Yeah, dioxin cause issues. Yep. So, but we thank you. We appreciate you. We honor each and every one of you. I'm gonna get ready to take my leave and enjoy family time. I'm gonna rest a little bit and then enjoy family time. I appreciate you all for being on. Thank you so much. I appreciate the king and queen in each and every one of you. As always, make sure that you study what we're talking about, so you're not just hearers of it, but you can be doers as well. You can go to our YouTube channel to find out more information on what we're talking about. Just go to hashtag find Kofi, hashtag FIND KOFI, and we look forward to talking to you guys a lot more if you're interested in stuff as far as land, classes, how to do what we're doing, one life coaching, marital coaching, whatever the case is. Just want more information, or want to be part of this stuff. Like tomorrow, for example, before we come on our live, we're on every rising at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. But before that, we have a special thing on Mondays only. That's early rise of Bible study session, where we just only focus on certain passages of scripture to be able to get deep into things. Thursdays we do Thursday rising prayer. That's at 7 a.m. Eastern New York time. On Mondays, it's at 6:45 a.m. Eastern New York time. I'm actually on 6:30 a.m. Eastern New York time to give a little bit of stuff for those who want to, talk about things or deal with things or whatever. So we thank you. We appreciate you. We honor you. Thanks for being on with us. It's been a little bit of time with us today. And as you can see, uh, my responsibility, the one who I love, is up and ready. So it's time for me to go ahead and move and to get into that. Sisters, don't forget this Saturday it's coming up. We're looking for you to you guys are going to have your women's meeting at 7 p.m. Eastern New York time. So feel free to be on there. Thank you again to this week. We've had Minister Anais and Minister Tamara step up as far as teaching. Minister Kevin helped out with the brothers as far as our men's meeting yesterday. Thank you to brothers who came out and blessed us with your presence last night. Thank you for those who were part of Yah's Land Project 83 and us moving in that. And we're looking forward to once again trying to have something to send out to you guys on Monday. All of our classes should be back in order this week. If we should have scheduled something for you by now. If you haven't had something scheduled with you, if you're in Sovereignty One or cryptocurrency, let us know to make sure that you had your one-on-one before we get to that class. But we thank you all. We honor you. We lift you up. We appreciate you. Much respect to you all. And we can't do this without you. Thank you so much. Sister Tracy said hello to you. Hello. And so did others. But thank you all for being on. We appreciate you. We honor you. We're grateful for you. And as always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken, until I have the great privilege, opportunity, responsibility in front of you, of being in front of you again. Remember, as always, that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully, wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. We'll talk to you later. Shalom. I'm talking about oof.